Welcome back. We are going to do our next topic in Python, and I'll concentrate on functions today, right? You have been using some inbuilt functions like input and print and string and so on. So somebody has written code for those functions. Those functions have a name. Some require parameters, some don't. So you know how to use them, and then your job is done. You're not even thinking what's going on behind the scenes, and that's perfectly fine. We're not concerned, right? When you drive a car, you don't think, oh, what's happening when I press the brake or when I press the accelerator. Who wants to do that? But your job now is to learn how to write functions, because maybe though it's a big library and there are many functions in the library, it may happen that you need something specifically for your own application. So you need to write functions in your applications, or maybe one day, who knows, right? You can become a big Python programmer and you can contribute to the library and put useful functions up there. So we'll learn how to write functions today. We'll start small, a little bigger, and so on. And at the end of the class, I'll write your guessing game that you wrote as your second assignment as using functions, so that you kind of see, oh, what's going on. Okay. That reminds me, marks for assignment 1 are posted, right? So they were posted last night. I'll start working on assignment 2 now with 5 sections and 3 different subjects. I kind of go 1, 1, 1, and now I'll go second, and that's how it will take time. But under all circumstances, you will have your results back within 2 weeks every time. That's a kind of a understanding that's been given to us, and I kind of stick to that line, right? But also some students, irrespective of me saying that this is an individual assignment, have kind of collaborated, and I can see it, like I know it. So I have sent out notes. I'm not saying who or what, I can't even remember names or whatever, and I'm not even mentioning names. But if you see a note from me in your Blackboard saying, please come and see me, please come and see me. You're supposed to come and see me. So I've put a 0 for now, and then I need to talk to those students who have not followed my instructions regarding individual assignments, right? So please keep in mind, 10% may cause you getting a 0 in the whole course also. And it's not worth it. It's not worth it. It's better that you learn it and do it. And as you do it, you can go from 2 to 5 to 7 to 10%. You know what I mean? Your marks will keep on improving. And I have 3 office hours, 3 days a week at convenient times. But again, if you can't and you want to come and see me some other time, let me know. But you need to get the language in your head. You need to understand it, because you will need it over and over again, maybe when you go out and work in the industry. So it's better to learn than to cheat and pass the course. That won't help. According to me, it really never helps. So please see if there is a note, you come and see me. Just email me and ask me a time, but my office hours are on my syllabus, and that's when I'm free, kind of, because the rest of the day I'm almost teaching, right? So please see that you do that. So what will we do today? We'll create some few programs. So I'll start fresh. I'll do small ones. I'll show you a couple that I've already copied from the Automate Your Stuff website, your book that is on the web. And it would be good if you could read the book sometimes, So when you do something with me, just read the book. It won't take you long if you've understood it. Or it will help you to reiterate what I've said in class. Now, that's not the only book that is available, of course, right? But that was the book chosen by whoever taught it last. And as far as I can see, it's not a bad book. I mean, it's okay. It's a good book. Free 1, and 2, it's not bad for an introductory course at all. So I am following that book because I need to cover topics, and whatever has not to be done, I'll kind of, leave it. Anyway, so let's learn how to write functions today, right? So what is a function? A function is basically a named independent code that does a job, right? So you'll say, okay, this is the name of the function. These are the parameters it requires. Maybe it doesn't require any parameters. This is what it will return to me, give an answer back to me. Maybe it does not have a return value. but it does a job. So you can kind of say you keep doing that. It's something like saying that job is assigned to you. That job is assigned to you. And how does it help? It helps that if you need the same code to be done many number of times in a program, you don't keep copying and pasting that code. That's not how it works. Though I know copy and paste is easy, but that's not how it works. You keep it in a place, you keep it in a box, you give it a name, and every time you need it, you say, you do your job. Once you're done, come back to me and let me know it's done, and then I'll move forward. Right? So that's important. So copy and paste is not an option of not writing functions. Because if you say, oh, you want to do the same job 10 times, just copy and paste the same code. No, that's not the solution. One, why? Because copy and pasting changes at as many places. Two, readability. It's poor readability. You're doing the same thing and you're doing the same mistakes, or I have to read the same thing, or you have to read the same thing many number of times. So what we are looking at is efficient way of programming. Function calls do take time. When you call a function, it will go to the function, it will perform, it will come back. So it will take time, right? But at the end of the day, every job has been assigned, or important jobs have been assigned, or whatever is required is assigned, and you can just call them. Is it always necessary that the function will be called more than once? No, not necessary. You may still have a function and it is only called once in your program. But the advantage is it is bound in its own boundary, right? It is independent. If you need it, you can import it in another program and then you can use it again. It's like what you're using from the library, right? Modules have been created for you and there are functions in there and you're just calling them. So maybe somebody needs input, maybe somebody doesn't, but if you need it, all you do is import, and you've done import of the random module in your assignment because you needed the random function. So that's how it goes. And so learning how to code functions is important. And we'll start with small, as I said, and then we'll kind of complicate them as we go on. So I'm kind of hoping to cover 4 programs today. 3 maybe. I'll combine the 2 easy ones and then see how it works. Okay? Let's see how it works. So please create a new file. Again, please try to use names that are good and useful, not only when you're saving your files. That doesn't concern me a lot. But when you write programs, I've seen variables A, B, C, D in code. I've seen N1, N2, N3 in code. Doesn't make sense, right? Imagine, think of it. If you were called the same, your parents started calling you child 1, child 2, child 3, or A, B, C, D, how difficult it would be. So same way, it's so unmeaningful to kind of, or meaningless, I should say, my mistake. It's meaningless to call variables that don't make sense at all. How difficult is it to call something number 1, number 2, sum, difference, product, quotient? Not difficult at all. And again, please learn to be grammatically correct in your comments. I've seen a lot of grammatical errors. Either spellings are wrong or you haven't used the right grammar, starting a sentence with a capital letter. These are small things. And you have to learn it irrespective of the country from which you come. If you have to here stay in Canada and work in Canada. And again, spoken English is different from written English. So get into the habit of doing some extra work if you would like to. I'm sure there are some English classes in the college which you could attend if you want. Okay, but you need to. You can't get away with it. And comments, if comments don't make sense to me, or if you're doing so many spelling errors, I'm going to dock off marks. Like I'm not interpreting what you're trying to say. Okay. Okay, so let's start. As always, at the head, I would like to see your name. That's the minimum I require. When I say including, I don't mean that's only that's what I require. And it's June 6th today. And the purpose of this code that I'm writing right now is to basically introduce you to functions, right? And write a couple of them. So I'll introduce you to this function thing, which is very important. Like writing code is okay, top to bottom, you write your code. But functions help you to organize your code. Okay. And then, of course, once you write them, you use them, or you invoke them, or you call them, whatever you would like to. So you've been using functions, right? So you're calling them, or it's called invocation. And it's that's how it works. It goes to the function code wherever it is saved in memory. So when your program is compiled or interpreted, it's saved somewhere in memory. So when you call a function, it goes to that interpreted code, does what you need to do in that, whatever it is. There's nothing new in it. You've learned sequence, decision making statements, while statements. It does whatever is in the code. When it finishes the function, it returns back to from where it was called, and its job is done. Right? So the program waits while the function is executing, and once it has its result back, or maybe no result, but the job is done, then it moves forward. Okay, so now again, if you are familiar with other programming languages like I am, some things may seem odd and your expectations may not be what they normally are in other languages. So I'll stick to Python. I just thought functions, and I did kind of assume that if they will just work like they do in, say, methods in Java or C++ or C#, but there is a little difference. So we'll talk about it as I go on. And on the other side, if this is your first language, you don't even have to bother. That way you're kind of learning everything fresh. Okay, so that's what the aim is today. So let's see. As I said, I'm going to start with small functions. Thank you. So I'm going to start with small functions, write simple functions that may be just saying hello and so on, and then go on from there. Okay. Okay. So the first thing, how do I define a function? How does the interpreter recognize a function? How does it know this is a function? Right. And again, functions must be defined before you use them. You can't use the input function if it's not in the library. You know what I mean? So in sequence, when you write your code, see that you define your functions before you use them, like variables. You can't use a variable till you have assigned it a value. Then it will say a name error. Same kind of concept. Okay, a little different from object-oriented, where it just belongs and the sequence doesn't matter. But here it will, because we are doing procedural programming. And procedural programming says, I'll go step by step. Guys, enough. If you need to talk, leave my class. Okay, so let's define a function. How do you define a function? You use the reserved word def for defining, right? So it's a reserved word. What it is saying is, I'm going to define a function. Now, which function are you defining? Give it a name. My function is called hello. I'm sticking to all lowercase because that's what you've seen in your functions in Python. They're all lowercase. So the same rules that will hold for variable names. I think they were letters, digits, underscore, if I remember correctly, right? With so many languages, you can't always remember the rules, but check up. I think that's what it is. So I'll use lowercase just because that's, I think, the convention in Python. And again, please stick to conventions. In a program, don't use 10 different conventions. Sometimes you're using camel case, sometimes you're using Pascal naming convention, and in the same program, you're using the underscore also. Right? So if they're not named properly, if you're not using the right convention, again, you will lose marks. In the first assignment, I was okay. I'm kind of even giving marks if your messages are not very clear. Kind of division of this and this is answer. Now, what does that mean? It's not properly written. You should be saying number 1 divided by number 2 is equal to whatever, right? So I've been very, very lenient in my marking in the first assignment, but my expectations will go up. And I'll also start maybe putting marks for naming conventions. Are you naming them properly? Good variable names, right? And also for efficient code. Believe it or not, like a couple of students are doing calculations twice or thrice in the same program. Why would you need it? You've done it once, you've saved it in a variable. All you have to do is print the variable. Output messages are important. The sum of your numbers. Now, what are my numbers? I don't even know. I forgot. Once I give the input, I don't remember what I gave. Never assume that I'll remember what the input was. Okay. So these are important things. These are important programming principles, you should almost say, which make your program different from others. And you all know, you like a program more than the other. One operating system is better than the other. One software is better than the other. Why? Because of the quality of programming. And you should learn how to be good programmers. Though it's your first course, doesn't matter. If you learn it right, it will help you as you go up the ladder. Okay, and not only in programming, everywhere you should always be efficient in what you write. Okay, so I'm going to define a function called hello. So def for definition, hello is the name, needs a parameter list. This is called a parameter list. Now, opening bracket, closing bracket, and I don't have anything in it. That's okay. This function doesn't require any parameters, but what comes in here is called a parameter list for your information. So it's def, name of the function, and the parameter list. And if you notice in my function, I don't have a parameter list, but I still have to give the round brackets. So even if you want to say print and not give anything, you say print opening brackets and closing brackets. Okay. Okay, so here it has an empty, this list is called an empty, and it's called a parameter list. This, what you see in the opening and closing parentheses is called a parameter list for future reference. You know, I may be doing whatever I like in it. So as I said, this is a very silly function. So I'll do some print statements. It may not be useful, but at least you know how to write them, and you can say whatever you like. Oh, I've started this new habit of going double quotes, though. I mean, there's nothing wrong in it. They're accepted, but I want to be consistent. So if I write double, I'll write double everywhere. It's like somebody at the college entrance when you came to the college for the first time. So I'm sure you saw SWAT teams moving around saying hello and so on. So you can kind of think of this person like a greeter who says hello, welcome to Georgian College and whatever. And every time a student enters, it says it. Now I could have a person standing there and saying it over and over and over again. Or on the other hand, I could record this message like I'm recording it now, like I'm putting it in a function. And anytime somebody enters, maybe technology is, you step in, maybe sensor or whatever, and the message, and it says something, right? Because it's not talking, it's just saying something. So welcome to Georgian College. You can do whatever you like. I'm just and you can have as many as you want. Really doesn't matter. Right? But it's a simple function. It's just saying a few things, but that's what it is. That's all I want to do in my function. So that's it. I'm done. My function is done. Now, does every function need to have a return statement? Now, what is this return? Return statement, it's a statement, it's called return. The return statement just takes you back from the function to whoever called it. So if I said, Ian, do this job for me, and he does and says, here, I'm done. So he's kind of giving me an answer back, I'm done. Or he may not say anything, and I'm assuming that he's done his job. You know what I mean? So your functions may or may not have return statements, may have more than one return statements, as long as, like, though Python is not very clear, you could write 10 return statements and it won't say anything. Whereas other languages will say, oh, I'm returning at the first return, why are you writing 9 more? But you could have more than one return statements as long as they are mutually exclusive. They don't happen together. So I can't say return, 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 because the first return, it goes back. So if I don't put a return by default, if I don't put a return, that's all I want to do in my function. That's the end of my function. But by default, a return statement is automatically put by the interpreter for you. Even if you don't put it, it says return. And because there is nothing to return, you didn't put a return statement, it will return a special type or a special value, not type, a special value called none. And the type of this none is none type. So none is of none type. Like you've learned about integers and floats and strings, none is of type none type. So I don't have to write it, but by default, the interpreter will do it for me. So even if you don't write it, it does the function, whatever you've told it to do, comes to the end of the function and says, I'm done. How does it know it's the end of the function? Because of indentation rules. I start fresh again. Maybe I define another function, or I just write code, right? So by default, what I'll do is I'll define my functions at the head and then I'll use them as I want. So there's no rule. The rule is function must be defined before you use it. So you can define a function, use it, define another function, use it, define another function, use it, and so on. But this way, because you've kind of placed them all at one place, they're just more easier to read and find, right? I'm now going to define another function. Let me call it something else. I mean, I could call it whatever I want, but okay, I'm going to define another function now called hello. You'll say, oh, the same name. Yeah, you can. This is called, just for your information, I could have given it a different name, but this is called overloading. I have a function with a parameter and I have another function by the same name by another one. It's called, it takes a parameter. Now, what is this name? I haven't defined a type. Remember, Python is loosely typed. So what can come into name? A string can come into the name and a number can come into the name. But I mean, I am writing a function, so I know what I'm writing. And when you use a function, you have to know how to use it. You can't write an input function without using its rule. So you kind of go to hell, you look at the expectation of what does it need, and then you use it accordingly. Right? So you could have given it a different name. I chose to give it the same name just so that you know, oh, this is called, for your information, this is one parameter. And in computer terminology, this is called function overloading. All you are saying is, oh, there's another function by the same name, but I mean, it can take a parameter, like your input function. You may not give anything in the parameter list at all. Or you can give a message, please input your first number. So it's the same function. One is working without parameters, the other is working with parameters. So is it a rule that you have to name functions the same? No, but I'm doing the same job. One is just saying some messages, and the other one is taking your name and saying the messages. So it's the same kind of job. Of course, if there were two functions, one was adding two numbers and one was subtracting two numbers, I wouldn't call them add one, add two. It won't make sense. One I would call the adder maybe, and the other I would call maybe the subtractor. You know what I mean? So naming functions again is important. How you name functions is important because they have the same thing. They must mean something. I'm not calling it F1, F2. They don't make sense. Input was called input and you say, oh, input, that's how I'll input it. Print was called print because you can understand what print does. The random function, the random module is called random, and the rand int says, give me a random integer. So again, names are important, right? So what I've done is I've written another function by the same name. No rule I had to do it. I could change it, but I'm just doing it. And then I want to do a few things here. And those few things are, now I know the person's name, right? So I gave it the parameter was called name because I mean, I'm assuming that's the name that will be given to me. And again, you can do something, whatever you want. I'll go like this. For today, I'll follow this because I didn't do it yesterday with my other section, but you can start, and some of you have done it. Instead of using the plus operator, instead of using this plus string concatenation operator in print, you can also use the comma, right? And comma is more easier to use because then you don't have to convert everything into strings. Why? Because plus assumes you're concatenating strings, but comma just says, give me everything and I'll print it for you. So definitely that is much easier. I'll kind of restrict myself just for today, just because I didn't do it yesterday with my section. So if they see the same program, I don't want them to be confused or anything. But there is another option of printing. Instead of plus, you use the comma, and then you're saved from converting numbers into strings and do. It's just a normal print statement as it would be. Then numbers can be printed without converting to strings, and the other things just stay as they are. Okay, so I'll stick to what we've learned. So now instead of just saying hello, I'm saying hello, and I'm saying the person's name. So as you enter maybe Georgian College, you say, I am John. So it will say, hello, John. Welcome to Georgian College. I'm just kind of making it a little same plus different. Hope you have a great experience here, John, or whatever, right? So that's not the John that I want to write. I want to write the so what have I done? Is it a little better than the first? Yes, it's more personal. Right? It's like sending an email to somebody and saying hello, but then if you know the person's name or you know who you're talking to, you'll say hello Anju, which is more polite also and better also. So what did I do? I took a parameter, my function took a parameter, and all it did, it used the parameter. Again, I repeat, you don't have to call it hello. You could have called them hello 1, hello 2, hello with name, whatever you like. But this is just a way of telling you that you don't have to think of more names. As long as the parameter list is different, I'm okay. Now, if I started defining another function called hello with no parameters, I'm hoping I'll get a syntax error, right? I can try. With Python, I kind of don't say anything till I run it, okay? So let's try it. Other languages don't allow it. And it's kind of obvious that they don't, because how can you have, it's like confusing to the interpreter that I have a hello and then I have another hello. So I'll just go print hello just to see if it compiles. If it does, then okay, so let's save this so that I have it somewhere for you guys. And again, I'll put it on Blackboard when I'm done. So Wednesday. So we are at program 5, though it's week 5 now, but I'll go program 6 so that I stay with it, and I'm going to show you functions. These are the easy ones. But I'll just call it what it is. Let's try to see if I get a error. Oh, how will it know? How will it know? Because it's just compiled it. Okay, here, this is how I'll find the error. Okay, now let's use the functions. Let's invoke or call the functions. So this way it hasn't said anything. Let me see, because this is confusing if it does it. Hopefully it doesn't. You can't have two. It's like saying, oh, you're the two functions are called the same, and how confusing is it? And why confusing? Because they have the same parameter list. They take no parameters. Now this and these are not confusing because this one has a different signature and this one has a different signature. These are called signatures. One takes a parameter, the other does not take a parameter. So that's okay. There's nothing confusing about it because they are different. Now let's call the functions. How do you call a function? Just call it. Okay? Call hello. Whatever hello is doing, it will do it and then come back. Once it comes back, you can call it again if you like. You can call it 1,000 times if you like, which I won't. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm back to column 1 because now I'm kind of writing my main program. I finished defining my functions. Now I'm writing my main code. We call it the main code, but that's what it is. Now I want to see what happens. There is a hello call, there is a hello call, and there is a hello call. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that it will give me an error saying, oh, there are 2 hellos. What do I do? Like, that's what happens in a normal programming language. But Python, I say something and then it doesn't happen as I think it should. So logically, let me just try it. Here. Oh my God. So what is it doing? It's saying hello. It's using this function, the one that came afterwards. So it had a hello, another hello something, another hello. And what it did was, by default, what did it do? There was a definition for hello, but it just replaced it with the new definition. Right? So it's not giving you a syntax error. So Python is behaving a little differently. And again, just for people who've done programming before, what does it do? It had something called hello and it had some code in it. When you redefined it, when you defined it again, it substituted that code with the new code. That's what it did. Now, how useful is that? I would call it confusing more than useful. Right? Then I would remove my first definition altogether. But here is something that's happening in Python. Old definition is being replaced by the new definition. That's all it does. It says you've defined it again. Okay, here's the new definition. It's like you have paper, you wrote something on it, and then you erased it and wrote a new definition. That's what it is doing. So that's what I said. I won't say anything. So I'll do this, but I'll keep it here for you. And what does it do? It kind of redefines the function hello. That's what it does. So it's a little confusing to me. I mean, I find it confusing. Why? Because why would you do it at the first place if you just give the definition you want? So I'll kind of put it here. I'll remove it from here in the sense I'll put it here, but I'll comment it. And let me now show you how it works. So we found out something new. I found out something new in Python. And again, programmers from other languages will see that this is a little confusing because it doesn't make sense. But it just said, oh, okay, you've given a new definition. I'll replace it. It's acting smart, maybe. I don't know. Let's try it again. Maybe it says, I'm smart. I'm not foolish. You had a definition. You gave me a new one. Here is the new one. You would call it whatever you like. Oh, now what?
It needs something defined for name.
No, but I'm calling the normal hello. There is a normal hello here. Okay, now that's another thing that means. Let me try it this way. See what's happening is this, which is again different from, okay, so I'm going to take it from here and I'm going to put it here. Right? So this in terms, though I've called it function overloading, this is again a redefinition. So it cannot differentiate between one parameter and no parameters. So there are few things. These are things that you just learn by experience. Here, now it works. It worked 7 times because I called hello twice and then I put it in a loop for 5 times. But as soon as I created a new function called hello, it forgot about the old one completely. Even though there is a difference in the signature. One had a parameter and the other did not have a parameter. So what I'm going to do is, for now, I'm going to leave this, but I'm going to study about this a little in the sense that I want to find out how can I make it work by not just by putting it, maybe because it's procedural programming. You see, that's the difference. So procedural programming says, okay, you're doing something in sequence. I just follow it. You gave me a definition of hello. You changed your mind, gave me a new definition. I'll take the new definition. I'll forget about the old one. In object-oriented programming, which will come towards the end of your course, you can do overloading. You can have functions by same name with different parameter list. And it says, okay, this is the one without, this is the one with. But I'm sure that there is a way of doing it in Python, but not in procedural Python is what I'm thinking.
It's just very strange because you don't typically want the behavior of what you're invoking to change partway through the program.
Yeah, but this is what procedural programming is. That's why we moved from procedural programming to object-oriented programming decades back,
Okay.
right? That is the use, that is the difference. So for your information, years back when I was a student, there was no object-oriented programming. So we had to be very careful about how we wrote. The sequence was important. But then programmers felt that this is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like it's so kind of do this, do this, do this. Therefore, object-oriented programming was introduced in 1900s, I don't know, towards the 90s. It was, I think, 1990, 92, 90. That's around the time it was, which is 2 decades back now, definitely. And then it became much easier to program. And rules changed. So you could say, oh, and you say, what is object-oriented programming? Object-oriented programming is just a different way of packaging. Here you have to package your program. Oh, this is what I call hello. That's I call it. I give it a new definition. The old one is lost, right? So you have to kind of, it's in sequence of how it works. In object-oriented programming, what happens is one entity, for example, it could be, the entity could be car, for example, cars, because you drive cars all the time, you know about cars. The entity called car was defined and all related functions, they are called methods of the car, stop the car, reverse the car, right, left, forward, reverse, they were all put together into this definition and packaged. Now, there was no concept of, oh, I have to write it in sequence. There was that box that had all the definition about car, everything, how it looks, what it can do, everything. All you needed to do was car, turn right, car, turn left, and so on. So it became easy. The sequencing was not important, right? That's kind of sequencing. But here we see it. And I must kind of make you aware of this, that this is not how usually now what the world works today. You'll say, then why are we even learning this way? Why are we even doing procedural programming? Because object programming is not easy. It takes a little while. You have to be kind of not a base programmer. You have to be one step ahead before you can start doing object-oriented programming. So we are giving you a base so that, and that's we do for our COPA students also, COPA students also. We start with procedural and then we move on to object-oriented. For you, there's only one course. So maybe in the last week, I'll talk about it. But for now, kind of assume this way, right? There is no other way. It wasn't working. When I did a hello before, remember when this code was not here, but it was here? It was giving me an error. It said, oh, you're calling hello, but hello needs a parameter. Please read the message. It says type error. Hello is missing one required positional argument name. It says, I need a name. You told me I'll give you something, but you haven't given it to me. And that's exact. And that made me believe, oh, that's strange. Why can't it see the difference between no parameters and a parameter? And when I call it like this, why doesn't it say, oh, you are the one with no parameter, you were? That's something that you would do, but unfortunately that's how this is working. But I will still go and see if this can be taken care of somehow in Python without going object oriented, but in procedural. Like I can change the rules, but I'll still work on it, right? Because this is new for me too. I wouldn't like, it's kind of silly for me. But anyway, so I'll just take this and I'll put it here. And you can't even put it here. Definitely you can't put it here. Because when you invoke something, you're saying hello and the hello is not even yet defined. It says hello is not. That makes sense in the sense, oh, I haven't even defined it yet. Though again, this is taken care in object oriented in another way. But anyway, that's not a big deal. So once you write your function, you call it. Or the other option is, don't give them the same names. Call one hello one and then call the other hello two. Then you don't have to worry about, oh, I have to write it and then call it, and write it and then call it. That's another option, which is easier for us because it's more of like, it's easy to understand, right? So do it that way. If that helps you, do it that way. So this one I'll call hello one. I mean, it's a strange name, but I'll just call it hello one. And this one I'll call it hello two. Now they are different names. Now it really doesn't matter. Now we are fine. So definitely you'll have to call it with hello one, hello one, hello one. So I'm going to change some of my comments. I will not call it function overloading because that's not working in Python, right? So if when I call it the same, we call it function overloading. Same function, different parameters. It's not working in Python. I've moved away from it. I have started naming my functions absolutely independently because otherwise it's causing confusion of, oh, it kind of becomes a redefinition, right? And I don't want to do redefinitions because then it's so confusing. I have to call it before I change it. So we'll kind of say, okay, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and we just give them different names. Function 1, function 2, function 3, function 4. I mean, proper names. I'm just saying what it is. This I will leave because I'm saying redefines the function hello, and it is a little confusing, but that's what happens in Python. So as soon as you give it the same name, it gets confused. It says, oh, the old is gone. Old definition is gone. Is replaced by the new definition. And this I mean, I do understand that, yeah, that's what's happening, but I was expecting it to tell me that it was an error. It didn't come up with an error. It just replaced it. So it doesn't give an error. So you can for your own good if you want, because I was expecting that it would give me an error. It does not give an error. just uses this new definition. Kind of think about it. So the sequencing is kind of important. Right? So you can make a note, sequencing is important. Just because this is procedural programming. Now it doesn't matter. I can call hello1 because there are two different functions now. One is called hello1 and one is called hello2. So there should be no confusion. Let's try it again. And there it works. Because the other one is called hello2. It's not complaining anyway. Are we okay? So you'll say, what about then if I want to call hello2? Can I do a mix and match? Sure, nothing stops you. Let's call the hello2 function now. But what does hello2 need? It needs something from you. Now you don't know what that something is, but definitely because we are writing the code, we know what it needs. I'm assuming that because I did a hello plus here, and that's what will kind of, that's what I wanted to change. Kind of, I wanted to show you that if I don't give a string and I put a comma here, it will still work. But I'm expecting you to give me a name. So I'm expecting a string parameter from you. If you try to give something else, it will of course cry. So let's give Anju. And let's try with the 1. What will 1 do? When 1 comes here and you say hello 1, 1 is an integer. It will say, oops, wrong print statement. Right? So the hello Anju, hello to Anju should work. Hello to 1 should give me a syntax error. Should. I'm again saying should. Here. So it tells must be a string and not a name. How did it guess that? Because Python is so loosely typed, I couldn't tell it, oh, I need a string or whatever. But how did it guess? Because when you said hello plus Anju, it said, oh, you have to concatenate a string with hello. So an easy way out, though, as I said, I don't want to do it today, but an easy way out is this. You can put a comma here instead of a plus. And you'll say for 4 weeks, she's been making us putting a plus and changing everything into strings. And now she tells us, but now maybe you'd appreciate it more that you see. Now I'm not concatenating. When I don't concatenate, it just says, if it's a message, I'll spit it out. If it's an integer value, I'll spit it out. If it's a float, I'll spit it out, and so on and so forth. Now if I try it, says hello 1 and it says hello Anju. And it has also noticed something. It has also put some extra blanks, which I didn't. So the comma behaves a little differently too. I didn't put that extra blank. I only had 1 blank. Did you notice? I only had, I don't know, I think more than 1. Okay, so only 1. I had only 1 blank, but that's not a blank. That's more than 1 blank. So I'm thinking that it automatically puts a blank also for you. So if you would like to try that way, let's remove that blank from here, the blank that I did. So you don't even have to worry about blanks now. Comma will automatically put a blank. Let's try that. That's my thinking from what I'm seeing. See, it put a blank automatically for you. So it makes your life so much easier. But on the other hand, would you like somebody to say hello 1 because you're expecting that a name should be given? You'll say, no, I want a person's name. I want to ensure or create a rule that what you give me is a string. So for that, use plus in your prints and then it will come up with an error. You always have to pass it a string. I could have passed 1 in quotes and it doesn't know that's not a name, but it has to be passed a string, right? But you can change it now. Like now you know about the print. Again, just because I haven't done it with my other students, I'll stick to it, but you know about it. The advantage of being in the second section is, I mean, when I'm teaching 2 sections is I learn something from the first. You know what I mean? Like I just learn something extra and then I know better. So the poor guys have to kind of, they're my guinea pigs, but this is just something I saw and I thought I would let you know. So definitely they will know and they will understand. But here in another way, if you want to kind of look at it, you will say, oh, I'm enforcing this, that I need a string parameter from you. So an integer won't work. It will give me an error. Right? So either way, plus point and negative point, you can think about it. Okay, so there, now you know. So you can call your functions as many number of times you like, in a for loop, in a while loop, really doesn't matter, as long as the function is defined. And the other thing that we've learned in Python is the sequence is important. And if you define a function by the same name, even though with a different parameter list, it just redefines it. It gives it a new definition. So we have to be careful about that, right? So better to give them different names. Even if they're the same kind of functions, we can go hello1, hello2, adder1, adder2, but just give them different names so that then you don't have to be following the rule. I write it, I call it. I write it, I call it. Then you can just write all of them together, which is usually how you work in procedural languages. And then you can call them as many number of times as you like. Because who will take care? Oh, this is code I want to call it now. Oh, I had to call it before I redefine it. So I think this is a better way of approaching it. Okay. Now, are those the only useful functions around? Of course not. Let's do something else. And again, I'm only writing all my functions at the head because I like that sequence. I like to put all my functions at one place because for easy readability, right? Let's define a function. So comments, because comments are important. So the other one is also doing the same thing. And this one, I'm going to write a function to add two numbers. So what would you like to call it? Whatever a useful good name, I'm going to call it adder. How many parameters will adder need? This says a function to add two numbers. So how many parameters will this function need? It's adding two numbers. So what is it expecting from you? Two numbers. So how many parameters? Two parameters, right? So let's call them number 1 and number 2. You can call them whatever you like, as long as please don't call them n1, n2, n3, n4. Good names will always help you in the long run of programming if you really want to program. What does it do? So now I see a 2-parameter one. That tells you function may have no parameters, 1 parameters, 2 parameters. Some may be optional also. I'll show you some optional ones also today. Not necessarily in my code, but the print function, for example. So for now, all you've done is print and it works a certain way. I'll show you how it can be done by giving it optional arguments. Okay. So these are called parameters. Name is a parameter. When you call it, Anju is called an argument. So the value you pass to it is called the argument. And when you define a function, it's called a parameter. Just different names so that you just know the terminology, right? So definition, we say, oh, it has 1 parameter, it has 2 parameters, and so on. So it requires 1 parameters, 2 or whatever from the user. When you call it, you're saying, I'm going to pass it the argument, and you just call it argument, right? This is just how you call it, like how you say it. Just a wording thing, nothing else. Okay. Okay, how will your adder work? Think about it. It takes two numbers, it should add them and return the answer. You'll say, why can't I just print it here? Now, just so that you know. Again, just a good programming practice. A function usually does a job and returns the answer to you, returns the whatever you've told it to do. It could be saying bye. It could be saying nothing at all, but when it ends, automatically it returns, or it could be returning a value back to you, like it will add the two numbers. I could have printed it right here, But see the disadvantage. It's not a generic adder. It will always print and do nothing. May not always be the case. Maybe a programmer wants to get the value and maybe use it in another mathematical function or whatever. Another programmer may want it back and print it. Another programmer may want it back and do something, pass it to another function. Like anything. You like the function, when the programmer is writing a function, he doesn't know or she doesn't know how it will be used by different programmers. So the safest way is do the job and return the answer. Let the person who's calling the function decide what he or she wants to do with the return value. Print it, eat it, drink it, throw it, save it, whatever. You may choose not even to save it. You may say, oh, I don't need it. Then why did you call it? Would be a question. But do whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you, though it's not necessary in this function, but I'm going to introduce you to local variables. So I'm going to declare a variable called answer right here inside the function. I'm going to take this number 1 and number 2 and add them together. So for your information, answer is a local variable. Till now you were only hearing variables. Now what's this local? The term local as in English means localized. Its scope is localized. So answer is a local variable. Its scope, we call it scope, is limited to the function adder. It's not available outside adder. That's what it means. That's what it means, okay? So let's go back here. I hate this, that it doesn't go back till I do a home. Where is my adder? There it is. I'll kind of move this a little forward so that you can see. So answer, now how does something become local? When you assign it a value inside a function body, it becomes local. That's how it becomes local, right? Remember, in Python, there is no other way of declaring a variable. So when you assign something to a variable, it becomes local. I cannot use answer outside the function. If I try to print answer outside the function, it's not that answer. It will give me an answer like none. So what is, because Python is loosely typed, it will just say, oh, she's telling me to print answer. There is no answer. I'll just say none. So it's better that you understand the concept. All variables, including number 1 and number 2, for your information. So these parameters, the 2 parameters that you've used are again local to adder. They're local to adder. So you can kind of think of this. It's like a box, an independent box. A function is an independent box. It has its own parameter list. It has its own local variables. It does its own job and whatever. And it's a closed box. Everything that you've defined inside that closed box only can be seen by adder. So adder knows what number 1 is. Adder knows what number 2 is. Adder knows what answer is. When you try to use these variables outside this box, in another function maybe, or just in normal code, it will be utterly confused. It will either say there is nothing called number 2, or Python may just say none, because a Python has this type called none, which means, I don't know, it can do that. We'll try it, okay? We'll try it. But I know because we've done it yesterday. Okay, and once it is done, I'll say, okay, now I'm done. I'm going to return my answer back. Now you see a return statement, which is returning something useful. Instead of saying return none, if I don't return, what is the use of my adder if it doesn't give back the answer? So I'm saying return answer. Now, just so that you know, I did this so that I could show you a local variable answer. But an easier way, not an easier, a more compact way could have been this. You could have simply said number 1 plus number 2 in one single statement. I mean, you can return an expression. You can say return number 1 plus number 2. It will add the 2 numbers and return. You don't have to create local variables. And in programming practice, we do say that don't create unnecessary local variables. The more you create, the more you have to kind of track and the more errors you can make. So So if you don't need a local variable, don't declare it, don't use it. But my aim is to show you local variables today, right? I want to show you that there is a local variable called answer, right? So there it is. My adder is defined. I can define a subtractor. I can define a multiplier. I can define a divider. I can do whatever I need. It's just a normal function with the name. And it is interactive. I have to pass it two values. It is expecting that both these values be numbers. Now, if I try to pass strings to it, remember, because plus also is a concatenation operator, it will concatenate the two strings and return back to you. That's what is wrong with a loosely typed language. That's why programmers hate loosely typed language. Or this box will do for shoes. You can put your food into it. If you change your mind, put the books into it. If you change your mind, put water into it. How silly is that? Do we do that in our normal life? No. So why were loosely typed languages made? These languages were made loosely typed to make it easier for beginner programmers to learn something. According to me, it's utterly confusing. The poor guys who are learning it are utterly confused with it. If it was strict, then you'll say, oh, I understand what it means. A shoe box is for shoes. A bottle is for water. A bag is for this, and so on and so forth. But I can change it, right? Or in other words, let's see if I can find a way of making it strict. Now let's try to call this adder. Let's try to invoke adder now. Oh, so this one was giving me an error with the plus. Okay, this one was giving me, I've come back to plus just because I want that it should be, I'm kind of making a rule that it should be a string parameter. Otherwise, somebody's name, 12, 13, 15, kind of odd. You say, but what if somebody gives Anju 1, 2, 3? Unfortunately, can't do much about it. If it is a string, the name is odd, Anju 1, 2, 3, but that's how it is. Let me call the adder now. Let's invoke the adder function. How will you invoke it? Now I'm going to show you how I'll invoke it. And then you tell me what's the sense or what's not the sense of doing it. So I'm going to pass it two numbers, 1, 2. Right? I'm going to print the answer that's there in that function. You're assuming, oh, it's there. You added it. I'll just say answer here. I'll use the comma here so that you become used to it. I'm not doing a plus here. Right? And let's see what happens. So you're assuming that the answer that is local, I'm assuming, I have to give you some good news. I had lost 2 rings 2 weeks back, and the whole house I've been searching. And they're right here in my pocket of my pant. I must have worn this pant something. I can't believe it. It's a good day. They were my diamond rings. Oh. The most precious of the diamond, right? The big solitaire ones.
That would have been stressful.
It was. Like, I was so grumpy. But then I said, what do I do? Like, how foolish am I? Where did I lose them? I thought I had thrown them, put it in the washer. And today I checked everything. Like, I'm just sharing this because I'm so happy. I checked all my pants at home because it happens. Sometimes you just put them in your pants. And I'm just standing here, I'm putting my hands and I'm saying, what's in my pocket? Something to eat, and I take it out. I can't believe it. Thank God. Bonus marks for everybody. Okay. I'm so glad. Anyway, okay. What was I saying? Let's see what happens here, right? So I've used a plus, I've used a comma. Let's see what plus does and what comma does and how they behave. But my main aim here is, what will answer give me? Let's see. Will it give me a syntax error saying there is no answer? Or will it say none? Now, in some languages, it will come up with a syntax error saying, what's answer? Where is it? Or because Python is loosely typed, it says, oh, there is nothing called answer, so it's none. Right? So let's try. Okay, let's try. So F5. I don't have a clue. I'm glad. I'm glad that it is giving me an error. If it had said none, I would again have to kind of put my head around it saying, oh, Python is not the best of the languages when it's written in procedure. I'm glad that it doesn't. You see why? Because answer is local to the function. Now comes another thing. Can the same variable, the same named variable, be a local variable and a global variable also? Yes, it can be. That's another confusing part. Students try to keep away from it because they can think of a better name, but it can be. So does that make sense? Yes, because it says, who is answer? I don't know who answer is. So what will now I do? So what have I missed? Can you think about it?
Well, you're not passing answer to anything.
So I exactly
the function, but it doesn't go.
Yeah, so I called the function. Okay, nothing wrong with it. I called the function. The function was called. It gave something back to me, but I didn't put it in. I didn't save it anywhere. So where did it go? In the air. It just went away. So if I wanted to really print that answer which was returned to me, what should I have done? I should have taken a local variable here. You can call it anything you like. You can even call it answer. To confuse you, I can even call it answer. Then there is a local answer, and then now this answer is a global answer. So global means belongs to everybody. Local means is only restricted in the function. Okay. Now what can I do? Can I still say answer here? No. What should I be saying here? Result. I'm just saying sum, though it's not a good one at all. I should have said sum of 1 and 2, but I'm not making it interactive. I'm just kind of showing you how functions are working. So again, guys, please remember that in a particular class, I concentrate on a particular topic. That doesn't mean you forget the good habits that I have taught you, right? Where if I say that the output messages must be complete, I mean they must be complete. Sum of what? I don't know. So, and it should be interactive. I should have asked the two numbers from the user, which I can. I can say, give me your first number and your second number. And I can keep adding it. Okay, next set of numbers, keep adding it. Next set of numbers, keep adding it. Right? And I can even pass it floating point numbers. Nowhere have I said that these are integers, because all I said was plus. I've used a plus in it. Plus also works for concatenation. So let's see what happens. But I'm going to try one at a time. Okay, so let's try this one now. So what did we learn? We learned that if a function returns a value, grab it. Otherwise, it's lost. Right? You can't use that answer there and use it. So what we'll say, instead of saying grab it, we'll say assign it to a variable for further use. Now that further use could be printing, like I'm printing. The further use could be you're using it in another mathematical operation. Whatever, use it. The use could be anything, right? Maybe it was an intermediate answer that I wanted, and then I'll use it for in another formula, right? Let's try it now. So I'm not saying answer, but again, I'll show you a difference, okay? F5. Make sense? Answer is correct, right? Now, to confuse you, just to confuse you. I mean, that's not my aim. I'm trying to confuse you so that you can understand it. I'm going to take a global variable answer. Now this answer, I've just declared it here, right here. And I'm going to call the adder again. This time I'm going to call it with 1.4 just to show you, and 5, 1 integer, 1 whatever. And I'm going to again show the answer. Before this statement, this statement was giving me an error. It was giving you a name error, remember? So when I was trying this, So again, I repeat, it's not kind of, I'm trying to show you things so that you can understand it. Was not giving, will give error, we'll say. When I tried this, I did it before for you. I did this. I said a print with an answer. And we found that, oh, it was giving an error. We definitely saw it, okay? So I'm going to comment it out. So I kind of created a variable and then I said I'll use it. Now let's see, do I get a problem? Let's see, do I get a problem now? Now, so just so that we know, I'm going to say sum of 1 and 2. I mean, this is really silly. Just because it's very hard coded, but at least you will see the answers are right or wrong, okay? And is and equal don't come together, guys. Is equal to, you don't have to say is equal to, you kind of just say is. And we know that the comma is working fine without the, so you don't even have to put extra blanks. There it is. Now it works. Right? It works. Makes sense now? Why? What did I do here? I declared, now there is no confusion. To confuse you, but so that you understand that now answer, I've declared a global answer. This is called a global variable, can be used anywhere. This point onwards, once you assign it this point onwards, a global answer exists this point onwards, not towards the, not before it. We all know that. Remember, it's in sequence. So this point onwards, the answer exists. So, and there is no confusion. This answer is not that answer. They're two different things. And I've proved it. How you'll say, why two different things? Because I was getting a runtime error here when I did it. It said, what's answer? Now it's not complaining. Because what did I do? I created a new answer. So again, if you don't want to be confused and it doesn't help your brains to work this way, don't create the same named local and global variables. But that doesn't mean that you won't come across code written by somebody who has done. So you should know that that's fine. That's how it is. That's just what it is.
I actually like it because that means if you go to the function,
yeah,
you know exactly what the name of the variable is that is being returned to.
So you would like to name it the same?
As long as you know that it's localized.
Yeah. As I said, when you become mature programmers, maybe you don't want to think of more names. You just call it answer because you know that that's local and this is global. Okay. So anything that you declare inside a function, I'll give you a break, right? Anything that is declared inside a function is local. Anything that is not declared, that is declared outside of any function is global. We've got the difference between local and global. One more thing before I give you a break. If for whatever reason, I can think of a reason right away, but if for whatever reason you wanted to make a global variable inside a function, you'll say, oh, I want it to be global, but you know what? I want to declare it in my function and make it global. So there is an option of creating a global variable in a function. I'll do it here so that you can see it. Can create a global variable in a function. So till now I've been saying everything that you declare in a function is local, and I'm right. And that's how it happens in almost 90% of languages. But let's define a function called example, kind of very strange name, takes no parameters, and use the word global inside it, right? And let's say variable, kind of. See how difficult it becomes to think of names.
Placeholder.
Placeholder, available, available. What about it? Available, it's available everywhere, right? And you can do an equal to here. The syntax says now you can give available a value. Let's give it 5 for the heck of it. And my function is defined. Now if I want, I'm outside, right? I can say print the global variable in example. I'll start using commas if you don't mind, but I mean, I know it's easier, but sometimes when you want it to be strings, you have to be careful. If I want that my parameter should be a string, I'll use plus in my print. Otherwise, I won't have problems. Oh, I forgot to show you the adder with the 2 strings and it will work. And now here, just say, what was it called? Available. And it will work.
Now, would it exist without calling example?
Okay, let's try that now. So without calling, yes, because you made it global and you assigned it a value. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Sorry. Yep.
I don't know how.
Yeah. No. Logically.
Compiler does weird things.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that because it's defining it maybe, but I doubt. But okay, so I called example and I used a variable which was available in example. Available. Spellings available, right? And it will work now. Why? Because it's not local, it's global there. By putting the reserved word local there, it will, global there, it will work. There? Works. Now, Ian, yes, pointed out something, and I forgot to do this. I just thought, oh, it's available now. Like I thought, but I wasn't thinking. But again, since it is Python and it's procedural language, when it kind of goes down and comes here, and it looks at this example, but I don't think it gets in, like it assigns it a value till the function is invoked. But we'll still try what happens, okay? Logically, hopefully.
I don't think it should.
Logically, it shouldn't, right? Okay, good. Okay, good. So it is behaving as, thankfully, as it should behave. Okay, so global variables, you've seen another way of declaring global variables. So one way of declaring global variables is declare it outside any function. It is global. Another way of declaring a global variable is for whatever reason. You say, but why will I do that? For now, I can't think of something. But there is this option that you use the reserved word global inside a function, and from that point onwards, now it is available outside. So as long as you call the function example, available takes birth. So you could have called it, of course, you can't call it before you define it. You can call it after you define it. So again, if you want to put it in a sequence and not anywhere else, we can kind of take this and we'll put it with all other functions. Again, just because, as I said, I just like to define my functions together. Oh, forgot my. So I'll kind of keep them so that you remember. So quite a few things, right? Quite a few things, because just I wanted to, oh, and the only one before I let you go. Let's see what happens in this case. I take the answer, I call the adder, I call it with Anju as the first parameter and Chawla as the second parameter. There is a plus there. That plus is mathematical plus, but remember there is also a plus in strings. So I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, let's try. Of not whatever. Some of Anju and Chawla is, which is really odd. But I'm just thinking that because it is a loosely typed language and the plus is just a plus, and the plus is also a concatenation operator, will it say Anju Chawla? I don't know.
I think it will.
I think it will, because it doesn't know, because the parameter doesn't say are numbers coming to me or are strings coming to me. See, so how loosely typed languages create problems. Okay, let's try it. I don't know. I really don't know. There I am. Because plus is a plus. You know what I mean? If I had used a minus, then I would get a problem. If I had used a minus and minus is not overloaded, plus is overloaded. That's what overloading means. It has more than one meanings. And that's what when I said hello was an overloaded function. That's what I meant by overloaded. We're just giving it something different, right? So it will work. Silly, but it's exactly doing what it told it. You told it to do. You said add them. You use the plus operator. You added them. It added it. Anju and Chawla, when added together, will become Anju Chawla. That's what it did. It's really silly, but loosely typed languages. So this is an example of. So this is an example. What's wrong? My mouse has stopped working. Okay. So this is an example. This is a consequence of loosely typed language. Just for the simple reason, language spelling is wrong. Why? Because adder uses plus, which is overloaded. So you can do math with it and you can concatenate. Logically, I can say it is wrong because that's what it is. Now, if it was a strongly typed language, for students who kind of don't understand what strongly typed language is or what is she trying to say, what a strongly typed language does is it puts the type in front of it. So it says, I need an int from you. Now, when you try to call it with a string, it blows up. That's what a strongly typed language is. You define the type of every variable you use, whether it be a normal variable or whether be it in a parameter list. Okay. So we'll take a break here. We'll take a break here and I'm going to do some homework about Python, about how can I make Python apps. Because there is an option. You can make, which language is that? I forget. Basically, you can make it act strong, like VBA, you can say option strict and it will then go strict. So let me see if I can find something so that I can shift to that scenario to make it better for you. Because loosely typed, you will not always encounter loosely typed. Okay? Take a break, come back after 20 minutes, have your breakfast or whatever, and we'll continue from here. Okay?
So I was looking into why we can't overload.
Uh-huh.
Part of the reason is because it's, the compiler can't discriminate between data types. So like in languages like C++ and Java and whatnot,
Yeah.
as you declare your function, like you always have to have like, string, whatever. But because Python can't do that, it only sees variable names. So it can't, because it can't differentiate the data types, it doesn't allow for overloading.
Yeah, but one parameter list is empty and the other parameter list has a variable name. At least it should be able to differentiate at least between the number of them, right? The type I understand.
But yeah, just the way it sees it apparently. Because we're actually creating alternative functions for compiler type selected is usually referred to as overloading. But because it's a dynamically typed language, overloading simply does not apply to it.
Strange, right? like for us, for me, for programmers who are kind of application programmers, these things seem to be a hindrance to learning rather than an advantage.
It feels weird to not define what the expectation is.
Expectation, exactly.
Because I didn't write this language, so.
And I didn't, so I can't say anything.
what I did read is that you can kind of overload when you do objects in Python.
Yes, I'm assuming, I'm hoping.
It says you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's an object. Anything that's object oriented will give you some way of doing it.
Okay, so as soon as you make objects,
Yeah.
you put objects into the functions,
Right.
and because you've defined an object, then you can overload.
See? Yeah.
But you need to specify what it is.
What it
putting
is.
as the data type.
I'm hoping that's what happens in object oriented. So, is there a way to make Python strongly typed by some kind of a command?
I don't know that yet.
Okay, try that now.
No, I don't need to know. Keep that to yourself. Please keep it to yourself.
Oh, I better eat something. I was hoping if I can find something like option strict, because JScript, I know you can do it in some languages. So nothing. You have a question?
But I was leaning on my shower today, and I hear my dog come up the stairs to go sit outside the door. She doesn't like not leaving me alone for some reason. So I hear him very sad. It's like sad to hear him climb up the stairs because he's so old. All I hear is this loud scratch, and then I hear fumbling down the stairs. And so, to me, I hear my dog fall up the stairs, and I rush out of the shower, it's soaking wet, to pick up my dog and make sure he's okay, and then I
Now, to be fair, your dog would do the same thing for you.
Listen, I was looking the last couple steps, I just slipped and fell down the stairs.
But inside for, you got to belong these statements. If you want all
But he's
these
fine, my dog's fine.
inside for, then you do it this way.
I think he's going on this table, but I was so scared. That was terrible. I just didn't chill. I was going to turn on the radio, so I couldn't hear anything. And I hear this. I'm like, oh my God.
Result belongs to. So same way with your individual. So you say, oh, I was doing this, and I'm doing that.
Okay, so basically,
That's individual. So
so
here, hello.
first one, you don't
like
need
a
to
bit
say return because you're not returning anything,
So they
right?
will do five lines.
You basically perform a task, you spit out a name, but then it doesn't pass anything back to the main part of the call, right? While with this, you're returning a specific result. So if you did not return answer, then when you ran that, you have no way of putting that information into there. You have to define what it is you're giving back. Right? Because if that return answer wasn't there, then you tried to make a variable equal that. Like, what does the program do? Like, how would it know some variable to pass? Like,
Be so shocked. I don't know.
think of it like that. It's like everything makes sense in its own logic. I found it a little bit stranger.
Dog like the actual person.
Well, normally that's not practice. I mean, for a small program, you can do that. But if you plan on reusing it, you might not want to format it the same way with different standards. You just have to look at it as, this is a function that will take a couple of numbers, add them together, and then give you the result. Like, who knows what you want to do in the end? Maybe you don't want to think about that. Maybe it's not a complicated function. It goes does a number of actions. You give the action back to the main program, and maybe you have to pass that variable on to another function to get what you want. Right? Because you don't necessarily want your functions to be printed. A lot of times you just want to give you a result to get you further along the lines of your main program.
Remove the week.
Okay.
No, they just replaced them.
Hey, Ben. Give me a coffee from McDonald's. Thank you. It's empty. That's the worst gift you've ever given me.
It's ridiculous. Why would you pay that much?
I don't know. Was it $5 like
Maybe you don't want
It's like $10.
Yeah, see, just why do you do that? You have like a mix of like some people want it, some people don't.
Thanks.
Do my purpose.
Listen, manually select. You didn't select your time, you
My
didn't
mom
select.
always buys stuff in bulk when she goes shopping. And so one day,
I'm sorry. How to address you, Miss Andrew, or
Whatever you like.
okay? So Andrew,
Yeah.
okay. So could you repeat some hard point on here, because I'm so sorry, my laptop was updating the system.
So what do you want me to do? Put this on Blackboard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me put this on Blackboard.
Thank you so much. There's a question that I don't understand.
Okay.
So if you use the definition function that you is mean that I don't need to set up the variable. Is that actually mean that?
I'm defining a function called hello1 here,
Yes.
and it is not taking any parameters.
What is that? No parameters.
No parameters means, for example, you remember the input function that you've used?
Yes, I know that.
Okay. So suppose I take a variable and I say input.
Yes.
I can use it this way. I'm not giving it any parameters.
Yes.
Or I can call input and I can say, what is your name?
Alex.
I'm giving it a parameter. and I'm
Oh.
giving- These are called parameters. What you pass it are called parameters.
What are passes? Okay.
Okay.
I get it.
So we call them arguments when we invoke them. So this has empty brackets.
Yeah.
So empty bracket means when I call hello1,
Yes.
when I call hello1, I can't give it anything. I can't do this. I
Yeah.
can't give it anything. It has no parameters, right? But when I call hello2, I have to give it something.
Oh.
I have to give it one value.
Yeah.
And that one value is to be a string because I've put a plus here,
I get it. So
right? Adder needs 2. So adder has 2 parameters. So when I call adder, I have to give it 2.
I get it. So it means once if I want to make the function work, so I need to set a variable here.
So how you write the function
Yes,
defines how you will call it. This is calling it,
I know that.
right? So if you define a function and it needs no parameters, you have to call it without parameters.
I know that. So how about the name? So the name in the
Okay.
hello true.
So how does it? This Anju
Yes,
is copied into this variable called name,
yes. I know.
and then it says hello Anju.
yes, it's just kind of the name equal to.
You could call it A.
Okay.
You could call it anything. I called it name because I want to give it a better name. So I'm saying that's what it will be.
Yes, I know. So you mean that the name is just how to
Whatever
say?
you give it.
Yeah, just a variable, right?
It's just a placeholder. Yes, it's just a variable.
Okay.
It's just a placeholder, a box.
I get it.
Okay,
Understood. Thank you.
no problem. Do you want it on Blackboard right now?
Yes, because
Okay.
I need to.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it.
By the way, do we have any class assignment today?
I don't think so. because there is more to do.
Apparently, when I was thinking.
I'm not gonna worry.
For what I do. Even though it displays the IP addresses in both in like one of the tables. So one of the additional information is like do anything new. What?
Like, it's literally enough to get one person. And I spin the bar back to fill it actually reach back there.
Yeah, I think last semester I only had one person sign.
No, to me, no.
It's really good mark. And like on one assignment, you'd be like, you didn't include enough information. So the next assignment, I write like a paragraph. I
They're
don't
a
know.
really fluffy cat.
So then you go over this whole, like, paragraph long thing about race, and then it's like, too much detail, not necessary, and then the fact check that's a 0.5. And I'm like, no,
I don't know.
because you want short answers, like, you don't want answers, so that's not what you want. Yeah, but if anybody's involved, then it's right, right? Because if you just you're gonna have to ask
6 hours.
you're looking for. And it's like,
Ada,
in the brain, but I'm trying
I
to-
have so.
I want to
You
know.
do it out how. How do you really get that distracted when you're so?
Like, that's a lot of tricky things. Just figuring out exactly
Yeah.
what it is that he's looking for, you know?
Like with me, it's just like.
You can tell him that it's particular, you want so much that they want. So it could be a broad subject.
And that was fucking,
I should see them. Are you tests in this course other than the midterm and the final?
I don't think so, because we only have 35%. So doing more than 2 doesn't make sense to me.
I'm gonna book it in testing services, so I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure.
Yeah, because with 35%, it doesn't make sense to have more than 2 tests, according to me at least.
Yeah.
Like it's only a small percentage. So I think I'm only planning for 2.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And I'll tell you a week before, so you can book it. Okay?
I'm wondering if I should book it. Do you know the date now?
No.
No?
It will be, if it is, it will be either the 7th week before the reading week on your class day or the 8th. We'll see how the course will go. But I'll tell you a week before it is done. So you'll have enough time. Okay? Usually they are good with accommodation.
Well, I'll probably arrange it, because I'll have 5 midterms.
Right,
I'll
right.
arrange it one each day of the week.
Yeah.
Because I get, I think it's up to, for one of them, I got up to 6 hours to do.
Oh, so you have more time too?
I have quite a bit of time to work on them. So
Okay,
that's why I can't have 2 exams in one day,
I see.
because I run out of time.
So definitely it will be on a Wednesday and in the morning hours.
Okay, so I'll probably book that for Wednesday then.
Yeah, so don't book anything else on Wednesday, right? And now the only thing I'm thinking is, shall I give a multiple choice or shall I do a program, and how much time should I give? Because I'm teaching it for the first time, right? So it's new to me too. So I haven't yet decided that. Hopefully I will be next week and I'll let you
For
know,
sure.
okay?
Thank you.
It's just that because it's new, like it's a new one for me. I really don't know how it will go. When you teach something for the first time, it's always a experiment.
Yeah. Now we're back to everything.
Oh, yeah.
I was reading the sub-chapter from the very beginning.
Oh, that's why you're like that.
Digital. I'm in arts, other one.
No, you see, Microsoft, they got certification types, they went from like C, C++, and then C#. Object oriented.
Nice.
But
No, I don't know.
no, I didn't have much.
Oh, like.
It's all about
So you have an unfair advantage.
only 9 of them.
Yeah, because solar is electric system.
Yeah.
And then sun, you know, it takes a little bit less.
I got like, they're wanting me to read dessert. My buddy wants me to fucking read,
Yeah, you can still buy like sunflowers. You can get a volume discount.
wants me to read all of them.
Yeah, oh, for sure, because it's very.
No, I'm actually doing my homework now. I know, I've been kind of like leaving it to the weekends and like doing it Sunday night, but I'm actually doing my homework. Oh yeah, I'm already done. Besides the two special ones, I can't find it. I know I have to put it in, yeah, I have to put it in every single browser.
So answer like, you know, to further compute and work together, or like, people, you ask the CEO what he wants to do. It's not just 3 days, 2 days. 2 days.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because the sun has had a purpose. That was to grow their population. But the consumption it's like, what is your goal? It's like your goal is to have the whole objective. So a lot of the, I actually have a couple of work for but there's an interesting nurture, right? But
I mean, I'll go with
the whole
my buddy Kurt's girlfriend.
is
It's like I think by the ranch apparently.
right? So you get the orange, and he shows up, and they're gonna be like, come over to your environment, and they're gonna fix really good programmers. Like maybe get your data onto an Oracle platform, like very good at that. Then they launch into a contract, but then once you're there, in a couple of years, and your contract goes up for renewal, all of a sudden, the price of your contract has skyrocketed because they know that to move away costs you that much more migration. So it's still worth paying exorbitant. And the way that Oracle sells this is they have certain requirements on their service. So when you're installing, you have certain requirements. So Oracle puts odd requirements on some of their so they make different architecture. Let's say like we need a CPU that runs up to queries and license that CPU wants me to make this software costs this much money. And then if you don't have that, then you just need to up this. So there are features of software that might be on 2.0. Then they're doing, oh, you're saying, no, now you need 2.8, but charge you a nominal fee to replace your servers and the new requirements. But they don't make this.
Oh yeah. I like that where this is not, the messed up is not.
But
I don't know how she's doing that. She's a small shit.
Although I have been contracting a little bit to try to bend. No, they're kind of starting to lose things. No, here's, like Microsoft AdSense, for example.
I know, right? I genuinely thought it's just for a month, just so you can watch everything in a single day.
Your typical platform, so more.
We still hear what he's praying.
Oh, yeah, no, they're still big. I don't want to imply that I think it's right now. Like, IBM has been in a very slowdown.
Okay, guys, let's come back to what we were doing, right? So I'll take another example, but that's kind of an overview of functions. We've learned a few things. And again, for students who may not even have heard of it, overloading is not supported in Python. As soon as I gave the same name to a function, even though the parameter list was different, it just redefined it, right? So that's how it is. Again, I'll try to see and do a little more homework around it. But Ian was looking up and he said nothing. And 2, can we make variables more strictly defined? And again, that will come in object-oriented. That's how Python was. Python is an old language. So they kind of imposed object-oriented on it, and they didn't change the original one, which is, you can change what it is, right? So keeping that in mind, hopefully you've understood what a function is, how to call a function, what are parameters, what is a local variable, what is a global variable, right? And remember, once something becomes global, like here, available became global, and then I was able to show its value here, you can again change your mind here. You can again change your mind here and say, oh, the new value of available now is 6. And you can change it. It's a global variable, right? It's now a global variable. And now if you print it again, it will now show you 6. Of course, if you call example again, it will again go back to 5. Yes.
Is there a specific naming convention when declaring global variables? I know in some languages you do all caps, for example.
Those are constants usually, right? Yeah. All caps are for constants. But I haven't, for variables or global or local, no, nothing. Okay. Constants are usually all caps in some languages, and I am not sure what's it in Python. I'll have to look it up. Over my head, I don't know. Because there are so many going on around the world that, you know what I mean? Like I can't. No, but yeah, but all caps is usually for constants, not for variables. No. Some languages have the notion of putting an underscore in front of a global variable, right? And those are more on the scripting side languages rather than on the application side languages. Applications rules remain conventions remain the same for local or global variable. So notice now, since available was global, now I can change it again, and it should now show 6. And once I go back to, there it is. And then again, if I call example again, and again show it, it will go back to 5. Make sense? Right? So that's what it is. So this program, except the last line that I've just written, is on Blackboard now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a simple example just because I found it in the book. And then the major part of the last hour will be to write a interactive guessing game. An easier version of that has been written by you for your second assignment. So I'll start marking your second assignment sometime soon. When I say sometime soon, wait for 2 weeks, okay? Like I'll start marking it, and it takes time because there are 60 or so plus students, and I have to download, run them, give my feedback and everything. As you notice, I've given feedback wherever I was possible. But that was a simple program. But as it goes on, I'm going to be stricter. I don't want to see grammatical errors, or I don't want to see spelling errors in your code, especially in comments or in outputs. Okay, so what I did was, just because it was simple and I didn't want to put in time in the class, not that it's something that I couldn't, but I just thought, I picked it up from your book and I found it interesting because you've done the random function. So I picked up this example from your, it's called, I couldn't think of a better name. It's strange that I only have one idle and it says idle with. Okay, so I've said modified by instead of my name because this is a copied one, but I just wanted to kind of share it with you because there are a few things I want to mention here, and I'm hoping that you've done it, because you've already done assignment 1. Functions, now that we know what functions are, functions in Python have been grouped into modules, right? So there is a module called random, there is a module called sys, if you remember we did it last week, and so on. I don't know about all modules, because as I said, Python is not a language that I use in my daily life, like, and I haven't taught it for years. When you teach something for years, then you kind of know about it. What I'm trying to show here through this example is what we haven't done in our class example. I've said a function can have more than one return statements, but they are mutually exclusive. Only one will work at a time or become active at a time, right? So notice what I've done. So the main program is just doing this. It is creating a random number between 1 and 9. And then, though it's a very bad name, I would never use R, but anyway, that's not my code. I have printed it just to show what the random number is. And then I call the function and then I print out your fortune. Okay. So this is a fortune one. But notice there are many return statements in the code. But if you kind of look at it closely and think about it, they're not kind of together. You know what I mean? If the answer is 1, the return is this. Else, if this, then the answer is this. Else, if. So they're all mutually exclusive. They cannot happen together. On another note, something that I would like to show you, which was again a little odd for me. Now this one says that if the answer is 1, return it is certain and return hello. Keep in mind something very important about a return statement. Return immediately goes back to from where it is called. So this return statement is kind of useless. It will never happen. Now, in good programming languages, I shouldn't call them good, I don't want to compare, but in modern programming languages like Java, you will get an syntax error here. It will say unreachable code. Will it ever reach this code? No, because this will take it back. So it never gets, like it will never reach it. So you get an error of unreachable code. In Python, unfortunately, it doesn't say anything. So it will return it is certain. So if I take an example of 1 exactly, so instead of this R, let me call it with 1, just to show you, and save it and run it. It says it is certain. The 2 is coming. It's the random number it thought between 1 and 9. I had shown it to you because I hope you've done that for me in your guessing game. You've shown me what the computer is thinking so that I can test your program. Otherwise, I'll just have to put it everywhere. So I showed that R, that's the random number between 1 and 9 it was thinking. But notice it says it is certain, and that it is certain is just this. It never said hello. It can do it. Right? So I got it in fortune here. I saved it in fortune. Again, notice no print statements. It's a kind of a no to put print statements in functions to return the values. Yeah, if there was something else, like you wanted to give a message in your guessing game, the guess is low, the guess is high, that's other thing. That's a different thing. But if a function is doing a job and you want to return an answer, then you use return statements. Never print your answers in the functions. It's a kind of a, it's not a rule, but it's a programmers kind of agree on it, because think about it, like you don't know what the user wants to do with the return value. So you just say return it. So what does Ian want to do with it, or what does, I don't know, sorry, I don't know many of the names, or whoever wants to do with it, doesn't really matter. Okay, right? So this is to show you that though this should give you a syntax error, it should say this is unreachable code, it is a useless return statement. It doesn't. And I was trying to do this again yesterday with my class, and I said, oh, we'll get a syntax error, and it didn't turn up. But for example, in Java, it will say unreachable code, and logically it is unreachable. You're saying go back. What does return means? Go back to whoever called me. And then you're saying go back again. How can you do that? You've gone back already, you know, so it will never come to the return statement. So I leave it here. It's a useless one, but it does not result in a syntax error, which I would have hoped for. I mean, logically, tell me that I can do that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a careless language for careless programmers. Kind of, okay, let me do. And therefore, I'm not saying it's bad. And therefore, I think it is so commonly used as a scripting language. because it's easy. It's using in networking and so on, because it's just script, right? People write scripts, and they're not hardcore programmers who are trying to write applications out of it. So Python is used as a very ongoing or very common scripting language. And what is a scripting language? Scripting languages are kind of not very hard and fast ruled languages to do small jobs. Make a network connection, find out which socket is your computer connected, things like that, small things like that. But I'm not a network person. Please understand, I'm a programmer. So I may not know all where it is used, but that's what I've heard. So one example, like I was talking to Ian, who's the coordinator of CSTN, the networking program. He said, if you're pinging a server, you can write a script to say, okay, whenever I ping it, give me an answer back. If you don't hear an answer, then that means something is wrong. So there is where you use Python a lot, because I want to understand the use of Python in networking world, though it's just an introduction that I'm teaching here.
I have a few friends that are network engineers, and they named Python specifically as a language to learn, because for a lot of automation of reporting and certain tasks, as like say a system administrator, Python is just a really ideal language to automate repetitive tasks.
Repetitive tasks, exactly. DBA, database administrators also use it a lot, yeah. So I've heard its uses, of course, I've heard its uses, but like I've never done it. You know what? I've never practiced it, is what I'm trying to say. And especially in this network world, I'm kind of not a person, to be very truthful. But anyway, time will teach me, right? So when I'm doing it, I learn about it, and I'm reading about it so that I get the knack of why are networkers learning this language. Okay, but that's important. You should know that why am I learning it? Because it's a very simple scripting language and is very useful to do repetitive tasks over and over again. Like that's what usually its job is. And its code is small, and 10 lines of code can do something that is manually will take you hours. Like simple thing, pinging a server. It's just a repetitive task, right? You ping it, you hear back, ping, hear back. So Python will work for it. 10 lines of code was all it was. Okay. Okay. Having said that, so a function can have more than one return statements, though you can also write useless return statements. But the first return statement that is encountered takes the control, execution control back from the called function to the caller. So who calls it is called the caller. So when you call it, you are the caller, and what is being called is called the called function. So I just wrote that return hello here especially for programmers. If you've done something else like Java or C++ or whatever, they understand that this won't cause a syntax error. And I'll remove this one from here. I just wanted to kind of show you that because I put that return, I'm putting an R. So this code is very simple. Hopefully you understand it. It's trying to find a random number between 1 and 9. So random is the name of the module dot the name of the function. That's how you use it in Python, though there is another way where you can you don't have to qualify it. But then in your import statement, you have to qualify you have to say which function will I use. So you're back to kind of normal. If I want to use many functions out of random, I'll just say import random, and I'll just say random dot whatever. But you can remove the word random dot, just use randint. But in that case, import statement has to say something about I'm using the randint of RAM. So the syntax, I kind of didn't bother to look at it because this is quite simple and easy to understand. So random dot randint means from the random module, you're calling the randint function. That's what it means. And just as an aside, this dot notation is used very commonly in the object-oriented programming world. Name of the object dot the name of the method. What is an object? Object is a child of a class. What is a class? A definition of something, of a car, of a classroom, of a human being, of anything. That's what a class is. A definition with data and what can I do together. So since it's a common kind of a notation, I don't see the need of like saying, oh, this is the function I want to import. And then if I wanted to import 10 functions out of random, then I'll have to write those 10 imports. Instead, I just say import random. And here I can say random.randint, random. Whatever. And again, these are not difficult. If I'm sure you must have Googled, hopefully you Googled and you didn't ask your friends for code. But here, all you have to do is you can kind of go to Python modules, right? And then again, so here they're right in the documentation of 3.6.5, and kind of look at what, see, they're talking about the sys module here. And of course, we are using the random module right now. So, I mean, I would highly recommend that you kind of go and look at the various modules that are present, right? And then how to use them. So here, see, import Fibo for Fibonacci series, and then how to use them. But somewhere here, I had also read that you could change it a little, and then you don't have to kind of, I mean, qualify it. But anyway, and somewhere during the course of the semester, we will also install some modules. So Python does come with some modules automatically, and you'll say, where are they? You can always, I don't know if you've kind of, maybe not, because it was new to me also, but if in your on your C drive, wherever your Python is it under program files? I forget. Oh, I can always do a search for Python. And from here, there are docs. Oh, the docs have also been downloaded. I didn't know that. If I kind of go right click and say properties or open file location. Okay, here, there is where there is where your Python has been installed, right? So it's in app data, local, whatever. Here in the library, maybe, I'm kind of making my guesses. All these, I think, should be modules, if I'm not mistaken. And they're just, if you see, all they are just .py programs, nothing else, is my thinking, right? So modules, there are some modules that automatically come when you install Python. Definitely, you are importing random, you're importing sys, and it is working. But during the semester, we may have to install some more modules that don't come in the package. Then we will learn how to do that. So I haven't installed them myself because I want to do them with you. But as we go on, we will learn how to do it. Now, so let me save this one and I'll put it on Blackboard for you. But now, another bigger example of functions. So you know what functions are and all that small things, hopefully. I'm going to open a file here. And it was on that guessing game that you wrote last week in an assignment. And I'm going to save it with in your folder because I'm going to make changes. S18. And this is week 5, is it? Yes, it is week 5. Okay. Okay, so now this is, again, I just picked it up from the book again. It's not well written at all, but my aim is to make it a good, efficient, functional, use functions and make it a better interactive program. But having said that, this is what something like you did. You just did it simply, run it once. Okay, so import random was imported. A secret number variable was used, and they have said, oh, save a number between 1 to 20, which is okay. I think I gave you 1 to 100. Then it says print, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 20. The player was then asked to guess 6 times. Now they are doing 6 times. I said, I think 5 or stop if you win. But here, so it's not a good, you know what I mean? Like the user guesses it and he's still being asked for give another guess. So that's not the right way of doing it. But what they did was they break. They came out of the for loop if the user won. And what did I teach you? Keep away from break, right? You can always keep away from break. And I'll show you how today. I'll use a while loop and I'll take this condition that the user has won and I'll take you out of it. So they've used a for because the maximum number of times is 6. Take a guess. User makes a guess. If it is less than secret number, they say it is low. This is the message I was also expecting from you. Tell me something, whether it is low or high. Now, too low or too high is not a big thing. Else break. Break means, oh, I found it. When they come out, they see, was your guess equal to secret number? Who knows? Maybe you don't know. Did you break out of the loop or did the loop finish automatically? So you check, was your guess equal to secret number? Good job, you've guessed it. No, you couldn't, and so on and so forth. So that is a kind of what you must have done in your assignment. Kind of, right? That's what was expected. I didn't expect a lot from you. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to change this code into an interactive program. That's 1. So instead of 1 to 20, I'm going to ask the limits from the user. You tell me the range. What do you want to play? Do you want to play from -100 to 100? Do you want to place it from 1 to 1000? You tell me. I will check that the lower limit should be less than the upper limit. Of course, you can't say I want to play between 100 to 50. You can't go the opposite. Because Randint wants to go from smaller number to bigger number. And I will write functions so that you can see the use of functions. So that's the aim today. Okay. So I'm going to change this program into a better version. And that's what I was mentioning the other day to you. I said, when you start programming, it's not that your first product will be the best product. It will take iterations and sometimes days to make it the best. So again, since I've done it, and therefore I got my notes because I again don't want to put my head into it, but at least I have something to back up on. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to write a function that asks for input from the user. Make sense? Because you have to ask the user many times. So why not write it at one place and say, ask, keep asking. So instead of writing that code in the main code, I'll write a function that is going to ask the user, please input your lower limit and your upper limit. The lower limit, where do you want to start? Upper limit, where do you want to end? 2, I'm going to write a function that will check, is the guess right or wrong? Is it less? Is it more? Is it correct? Why am I again doing it? Not because I have to do it many times. I only do it once in a loop. But again, it's a job that will kind of is well-defined and independent, right? So that's my aim. That's what I want to do today. And then I'll write the main program, which I'll again make interactive. So the user will the program will keep on running till the user decides, okay, I'm done. I'm tired of this game. So you could use the yes that you did last week, why or why. I don't know how many of you checked up quit to see how do I give combinations. If not, it's going to come in an assignment. You'll do it yourself. Instead of using and confirming, do you want to play more? Do you want to play more? You can do something like this. Stop when the user gives lower limit and upper limit both as 0. So your inputs are 0. You don't want to play anymore, right? So it is saving an extra input of, do you want to continue? So the less you ask of the user, the better you are, because the user is crazy. So you're asking what is the lower limit, what is the upper limit. Tell him, if you want to quit or finish the game, just enter 0 and it will be done. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do today. So make the program interactive, write a function to ask input, write a function to check if the user guesses right or wrong, write a loop that will, of course, tell you what is going wrong, high, low, whatever, and then go from. Okay, so I'm going to convert this 15 lines of code into maybe 50 lines of code, but a better product. Okay, so bear with me and work with me. Okay, so let's do our normal comments at the head. And let me close what I don't need, because it's a mess, right? So I'm going to just kind of copy and paste from here and close my windows because it's very confusing. So that's gone. Guessing game I want to work. I'll close my shell just because I have 2 of them open. I'll close this and I'll close the shell too. And that's the only one. Okay, let's start. Don't tell me. Okay, something didn't happen properly. Okay, so your name. Shh, guys, please, this will take time. So I want to finish it off. It's June 6th today. We are in week 5 and your midterm should be in week 7, just so that you know. That's the week before you go for your study week, right? Now the format, I haven't thought yet. Usually with programming, the format is do a program. No sense asking you multiple choice questions like it. I find it silly. It's my personal opinion. I give you a program, I say, do this for me. You do it, you finish it off and you're done. That's how I work in my programming languages. There are only 35% marks for exams in this course. The course outlines were not made by me. I'm going to request for more for next time. But anyway, so I'm kind of thinking with 35%, I'll just do 2 exams, 1 midterm and 1 the final term. The rest 65 is all in your hands. all assignments, right? Do them well, do them individually. I've already caught 6 people cheating. So they already have a 0. The next time they do it, they have a 0 in the course. The third time they're caught, they're out of the college, and international students cannot come back. So guys, do your work, good or bad. It's better to do your own work and learn. And you know what? The college is very strict about all this. And though I mark 60 assignments, if I've seen an assignment before, I know I have seen it before. And I can find out. And it takes quite a bit of my time, but that's my job. I have to see that people who are honest get their marks, and people who are dishonest don't get their marks. Okay? Okay, let's go. Let's start. Okay, so what is the purpose of the program? The purpose of the program, a few of you are even writing your names in all small. How grammatically correct is that? Do you write your names in small? Like, nobody needs to teach you that. Grammatically, right? Now, this name, date, and purpose, they're single words. Please start with caps. Okay, what is the purpose of the program? The purpose of the program is to code an interactive guessing game. The user provides you with the lower and the upper limit. The user says, this is the range I want to play in. And of course, the aim is also to use functions, right? That is one of the aims today, because we are learning how to use functions. It's an interactive one. So for an interactive one, what I'm going to do is this. So you know what? Okay, let's try to write our functions first. Okay, so you know the import statement. You have imported this to use the rand int function. Hopefully you did this in your second assignment, right? So the rand int function has been used somewhere. Of course, it has to be. Here it is. And I have to import this module to do that. Okay. Now, as I said, the job is that you understand what functions are needed, write the functions independently. You don't even have to say, oh, how will it be? You write the function. This is what the function wants. This is what it will do. This is what it will return. So don't even think of where and how it will be used. Whoever created the library didn't know that who is going to use it. They wrote the function. So I'm going to write my functions independently, and then when I call them, I'll see, oh, this is what I did in the function. So the requirements of the assignment or of any application, or your client says, this is what I want. You decide, let me write these functions. So I give job 1 to student 1, job 2 to student 2, job 3 to student 3. They all write independent functions, and then I put them together to create the program. So as long as I know which function is called what and with what I have to call it, I'll be okay. Okay, so let's write our first function. And just to make it a little pretty, because I'm trying to write a complete program, I'm going to do a little pretty things here. So I'm going to say, just so that, okay, so what does this program do? So this guessing game and this is what is the guessing game. Computer thinks of a number and you guess it. It's like instead of playing with the person, you're playing with the computer. Okay, so that's what it is. That's what it is. Now it is an interactive one. That's one. It's an interactive one, which means that you can play it for as many times as you like. And the second thing is that you decide what the user decides. Oh God, I better take care of my single quotes and double quotes. Otherwise, I'll keep mixing them. I don't know what's got into me. I use single all time, and MySQL also uses single. And that's the only two things I'm teaching. But anyway. Right, so this is a guessing game. The computer thinks of a number and the user tries to guess it anyway. Okay, and the other thing is the user, the option. So to make it kind of more, the user provides the limit or the range. So the lower limit is provided by the user and the upper limit, so that you know these names when I use them. Oops. So the user provides the range to play in, the lower and the upper limits, right? So you can decide. I want to play between 1 and 100. I want to play between 50 and 60. I want to play between -5 and 5. You decide, whatever, right? So that's how you decide. And just so that the user knows that, oh, till when can I go on? So to stop the game, just enter 0 for both the limits, which is kind of not a bad. Sometimes you can think of something, oh, how do I stop it? Or what should be my loop? I don't want to do while true or whatever. But I mean, this is not an invalid kind of a stopping rule. You don't want to play it 0-0 finish. I'm done, right? You could have done -1, -1, 2, 2, whatever. But like, it's not a bad assumption that I can stop when it is 0-0. So this will come up when you start running the code. This will come up on the screen just to kind of show you what's going on. Okay, now let's try to write our functions. So I'm going to define my functions. The first function that I'm going to write is, as I said, I'm not concerned of how I'll use it. I'm just going to write my function. So this function will take 2 integers or accepts 2 integers. So when I'm accepting integers, please say integers. When I'm accepting floating point numbers, please say numbers. Your comment says take integer from the user, and your input statement is converting it into a float. So your comments are not matching your code. So of course you will lose marks. Okay. Okay. So this function accepts 2 integers from the user. And what are these 2 numbers? The lower and upper limit for the range, for the game range, and also validates it. So now here it's a little important, the validation. Now, what do you mean by validation? Validation says they can be positive or negative, so that's not a problem. But the lower limit should be less than the upper limit because of the randint way of working, right? So I have to keep that in mind. Let me write my function. How do I say? Define. Let's call it, what's a good name that would work? Take inputs, maybe. You can say take limits, input limits, whatever you would like to call it, something that will make more sense, right? So you can say input limits, take inputs, or whatever. I leave it to you, but don't call it ABC or function 1 is what I'm saying, right? So you can call it input limits. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. So what's limits, but whatever. It's not a big deal at all. Okay, so now, of course, if I have to take limits, I will have to give a message to the user, ask, and so on, and then validate it and so on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, what should I do that will help you? Okay, I'm going to take 2 global variables here because I want to use it in my code also. Now, usually, it's always a good practice to work with parameters. Why? Because it makes it independent. Give me this, I'll do it, and I'll give you back. But in this code, the take inputs function is not very important in this sense because its job is only like reading input and validating it. I could have taken those 5 lines and put it there, but I wanted to put a function and also show you this global nature, which is very different in Python. So I'm going to take a global variable called lower limit. Usually the golden rule is make it completely independent. Don't rely on global variables. But believe it or not, I have devoted some time to it to kind of find the best solution. So I did try with different ways of doing it. I found that this was the easiest and the most efficient to work with. Okay, so I've taken 2 global variables, lower limit and upper limit. Global means I can use it in the function, definitely, and I can also use it outside the function. You'll say, where will you need it? I'll need it in that while loop, while they are not equal to 0. That was the reason that I had to make them global. Okay, now what is your loop? Let's write the loop. While, oh, again, the brackets are not important. So till when must you go on? While the value of your lower limit is greater than the value of your upper limit, keep on asking the user. So if you give the lower limit to be more than the upper limit, it will ask again and again and again. But you will say, but it's not even defined. You haven't given it a value. How will the loop start? Like I've just declared them to be global, right? But to start the loop, every time, because if I've done it once and I want to start it again, the previous values of lower limit and upper limit were okay. Therefore, the program was running. I want to start a new game. I don't want to use the old values because then this loop will never happen. So to force the loop, to start the loop forcefully or to forcefully start the loop so that previous correct values are ignored. Now, for the first time, of course, there is no previous, but after that, there will be. What I'm going to do is I'm going to myself take the lower limit and give it a value of, you can give it whatever you like. I don't remember what I gave it. I gave it 1. And I take the upper limit and I gave it the value 0. So this way my loop will work because lower limit is greater than upper limit. And I'll show you if I don't do this, what will happen. I will show it to you. As I said, I've devoted some time to make it efficient, right? So I have tested things and I'll show you why am I doing this. For example, let's do this. I'm playing a guessing game. So my lower limit was 5 and my upper limit was 100. Okay, the game ran, I made a guess, I won. The next time I have to start a new game. So what do you want to do with the old 1 and 50 lower limit and upper limit? You want to erase them. You want to start fresh with new limits. If you don't do this, then this loop will not run because your lower limit was 1 and your upper limit was 50. So it retains the previous values. So you have to kind of wash them. To wash them, what do? I have to put a condition. I have to do something that will make this while loop run again. Because I'm saying take input, game finished. Take input, another game finished. Take input. So over and over again, since I have to do it, I want to erase the previous values, and the previous were right because the game was running. So I just give it 1, 0. You could do anything. I took a 1, 0 because 1 is greater than 0 and it was the easiest to kind of begin with. You can do whatever just to make the loop go. Okay, what do you want to do? You want to ask for the lower limit. You want to ask for the upper limit. You want to check. You want to give a message, oh, your lower limit should be less, and so on and so forth. So we know how to do that. Please do that. And again, just so that it's easy to read. Every time I ask for input, I'm going to kind of, as programs become bigger, it's very important that messages become clearer because you don't know what is happening. The program will run more than one time. It will ask input for more than one times. So you'll get confused, oh, what's happening? So this way, whenever input is asked, it will say input and it will ask you for input. That's a kind of a, you know, to make it pretty one, but also to make your code readable too. I'll put another print here and I'll remove the words input out of it and just replace them by dashes. And indentation is very important, guys. A couple of students have lost marks due to indentation. Program doesn't run. I'm not going to make it run for you. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to ask the user for the lower limit. I want to ask the user for the upper limit. Okay, so let's ask. We know how to ask that. We go lower limit, convert it into an int, take the input from the user. What do you want to say? You want to say, please enter a number. Oops. Yeah, we are okay here. Single and double both are working, whatever you want. So let's stick to this. Please enter a whole number. Now, I wouldn't use float or integers here. If you want to ask for a whole number, say whole. Usually people will understand whole. If you want to say just number, then say number. But putting float or integer in a message for a common user Makes no sense. Remember, somebody is playing it. What do they know what a float is? We'll say, what do they know what a whole number is? But whole is still not bad. You know what I mean? Like whole means complete, like whole number. So, but float and integer definitely don't make sense. Please enter a whole number for the lower limit. Right, of the game range or whatever. And again, you can do this, which I did. I printed some messages so that the user knows. The user should know that the lower limit should be less than the upper limit. The user should know this. The user should also know that to stop, irrespective of what you tell the user never listens to you, but our job still is to tell the user, right? So every time input is asked, it will say lower limit should be less than the upper limit. To stop the game, enter 0 for both limits, right? And the game range is lower limit, comma, upper limit. That's what your game range is. Okay, so if you want to say what are these lower limits, who will understand? So you can say game range is, you can put it in brackets, lower limit, and it's just an English. Like here, I don't have to say like, I'm just telling the user that this is what it is, okay? Game range is lower limit to upper limit. You can kind of say it in English. You don't even have to say this, like you can remove it. You can say through, you know what through is. Through means including. And that's the guessing game range. So that you exactly tell what you are doing. So now messages are becoming more important because you're going to ask input and so on and validate it. Okay, so please enter a whole number for the lower limit. There is your message. Where does my message end? Here, there is where my message ends. Here, that's my lower limit. Please do the same for the upper limit. So now the user exactly knows what this, I mean, it's not Greek to them. They know what upper limit is. They know what lower limit is. Guys, I can hear somebody. Can you please talk softly if you really are dying to talk, or just leave the class? Right? So here it says, please enter a whole number for the lower limit. And then it says, please enter a number for the upper limit. So I've already said guessing game range is lower limit through upper limit. That's what we are playing, right? I've already said lower limit should be less than the upper limit. I've already said to stop the game, enter 0 for both limits. So the instructions have been given to the user. Okay, and again, to kind of say that these are instructions, a good way would be to make them of the same size. And you know how to make them. You can see them right above. Makes it neater. You know what I mean? Like I'm just making it because now it's important that we learn how to write neat programs. Again, if you wanted to start from the same thing or whatever. So these are your instructions. You can even change it to input instructions. So the user exactly know what to do. Make sense? Okay, that's all I'm doing. I'm trying to make it up. I'm trying to code it so that my game is popular. We all know we love some games, we hate some games. It's how they have been built, how user-friendly they are, right? And that's what I'm trying to do. Now, it is a good idea that if something went wrong, so if your lower limit is greater than, is greater than your upper limit, to tell the user, what did you do? I told you not to do it, you're still doing it, but of course the user never listens to us. We will again print a message, but this message without the dashes because it's just a message. And I'll say something like invalid input. Lower limit should be less than the upper limit. Make sense? So always tell the user what's going wrong. Now look at this function that I've written that is completely independent. You could actually import this and put it in another program. You can import, your own programs can be imported, and you can use input limits from there. Nothing stops you. Right? So the only thing that I should have avoided, and as a programmer, I would not recommend, is using global variables in your code. Usually a function, when it is written, whatever you want to give it to it, pass it as parameters. Say here is your input, here is your input. And then whenever it gives you something, just take it. Now this take inputs was creating a huge problem for me when I was trying to do it. And this was the best solution I could find. I'm open to if you can think of something else, and I'm still going to maybe look at it again. But believe me, I did put a couple of hours to kind of make it the best way to work, kind of, and I didn't want to use global variables. I didn't have much choice. Okay, now the second, one function is complete. See, I'm not concerned about like anything else. I'm just writing a function, and that's what is the beauty of functions. Just code them. What is the second function you want to code? You want to write a function, and the second function compares the user's guess So this function compares the user guess with the secret number. You can call it the secret number or the computer number. That's what it does, right? And it returns a value. It returns 0. Let's say I'm going to return 0 if unequal, and 1 if they are equal. So if 1 is returned, that means, oh, it was fine. My bad, I forgot my, okay, everything looks okay. So as you write code, write your comments so that you don't forget what I was doing. That's also a major thing. Believe it or not, we all forget. Right? For something that seems easy today, after 2 months, if you look at your program, you'll say, why did I do that? So always write comments. It's in your benefit. It's in the benefit of other programmers who are working with you. And if you leave a job and somebody else comes in, and of course, in your educational environment, it will give you marks. That's important too, right? Okay, so I'm going to call it, you can call it whatever you like. But what I'm going to call it is, I can't even remember so that I can keep it. Okay, I'm going to define check the guess. Names were just for me. And you know what? Just so that I don't confuse, I am sorry about this, just so that I don't confuse my students from yesterday's class, just in case they pick up, sometimes students pick up from both classes to see comparison or whatever if I've done something extra. And I do. If a question is asked of me, I do answer it and I just put it in. Sometimes you don't. So I would recommend kind of picking up both. But anyway, so I've just changed that to the same name that I gave yesterday, which was take input, not even take inputs, though that's wrong. But anyway, can't do much about that. I think they can figure out that for sure. That's not a big difference. Okay, so check the guess. Okay, what are the parameters that this method needs? What is it checking? It's checking the user guess against the secret number. So it needs how many inputs? 2. So order is important because when you call it, you have to pass it in the same order. The types, we don't have to do it in here at all because it's weakly typed. So some guess will come to it and a secret number will come to it. I don't care. You can give it any names, but in my code, I've called them guess and secret number. Good names enough. Guess means what did the user guess? You could call it user guess. And what is the secret number? The number that the computer has put in its head. And at the end of the day, it will either return a 0 or it will return a 1. Now, how does it return a 0 or a 1? I'm going to take this else if, just because it's written there, okay? I'm just going to put it here. I'm not going to do any printing at all. Oh, this is the message. Okay, so this is the message. Messages are not bad. This is saying your guess is low. I'm not going to say too low, because then there is a whole thing of saying what is too low and what is too high, though you could do it. And I'm going to return a 0 from here. Here I'm going to say your guess is high. And I'm again going to return a 0 because you're still wrong. And in this case, I'm going to return a 1. Please see that your if and your else if all start from the same column. If not, they are not related. Is the logic clear? The guess, if it is less than the secret number, a message is printed on the screen, your guess is low. You can even show the guess. You can show the guess. It's not a big deal. How can you show it? Remember, we've learned the commas, but we'll kind of stay with, just because. Show the guess. Your guess, this is low. A good habit. Why? Because your guess is low. The user says, oh, I forgot what I guessed. Silly user, but user can forget. Always think your user is not the smartest of the guys. So try to write everything that makes more sense. Here again, I'm going to say your guess. And again, I'll show the guess is high. Now, you could make it better. You could say too low, too high, but then you'll have to make your ranges. So if it is between lower limit plus, there is more math to it. You'll take your range. You will see 50 numbers, 100 numbers, whatever. Then you will say, okay, if it is between halfway, I'll say low. If it is in the first 25%, I'll say too low. Between 25 to 50%, I'll say low. From 50 to 75%, I'll say high. From 75 to 100%, I'll say too high. So you'll have to just do a little more math. You know the lower limit, you know the upper limit, you can subtract them, you can find the range, and then you can break it up into 4 groups and say too low, low, high, too high, if you want it that way. Nothing wrong in it, a better game, but again. And so return 0 in both cases. So it will, now this printing of these messages is not like printing of an answer. It's a print that tells you you went wrong. If you don't tell the user it's low or high, the poor user is saying, now what? Okay, it's wrong, but like, what was it? So if I guessed 7 and it was 9, it would be a good idea to tell him that his guess or her guess was low, right? And that is my check guess function. Done? So check guess is done. Has nothing to do with anything else. It takes 2 inputs, takes the guess, takes the secret number, and does its job. So therefore, we say that functions are independent code that work with parameters and may or may not return values. We try to keep them independent. I haven't even started writing my main program yet, but I gave this job to somebody. I said, you write this function, you write this function. But with the take inputs, I had to do the lower limit and upper limit, and you will see a reason why. Okay, now let me write my main program. I'm not calling it, I'm calling it the main program, but it's just that because it's not a function. Okay? Okay, let's complete this. Now, I want the program to run while, right? So what did I say? I said I will keep on running my program while the lower limit is not equal to 0 and my upper limit is not equal to 0. That's when I'll run my program. Just so that you know, you can put your conditions in round brackets if you like. You can even put your variables in round brackets, but don't do it, please. It looks very silly. I've seen some students doing this. Like, that's really, it's an overkill. You know what I mean? Like, why are you putting your variables in brackets? I don't know, maybe it helps them, but it's untidy. The conditions in a loop, in a while, is just because it's a compound condition. You can kind of put it in brackets if you want. It is allowed in Python also. But if not, if you want to keep with your previous one, I'm perfectly fine with it. Here. But again, here comes the big question again that, okay, before you start the program, take the input from the user. Only then can you start the program. So call the take inputs function. So take the input. Before you start, what is your lower limit and upper limit? So take the inputs from the user, right? So the inputs will be given by the user. If the user says 0, 0 at the first go, there will be no game. Otherwise, the user will give you a lower limit and the upper limit. And you have already ensured that they are right, they are valid. You've already validated it. So there is not much job to do now. Okay, what do you want to do now? Now the rest is what is kind of here. You find out a secret number between not 1 and 20, but between lower limit and the upper limit. Because it's an interactive program now. I am not restricted to 1 to 100 or whatever. Find out a random number. I have thought of a number between, and again, show the upper limit and the lower limit. And just because we've kind of learned it and we want to do it, or if you don't want to, I'm just so kind of this particular, because of the other section may pick it up and then they'll cry their hearts out, believe me. What's that? What's that? Especially for students who are doing programming for the first time, right? Remember, if you use pluses, then you have to convert everything into a string, which is a headache, but anyway. Next class onwards, definitely I'll start using the commas wherever I can, because so there is an advantage of using pluses when you want to force the user to give you a string. So I have thought of a number between this and this. Now you're going to ask the user to guess. And I'm going to change. Let's do 5 times. Ask the player to guess 5 times and exit if the user wins before. You can even ask the user, how many times do you want to play? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could even do that. But I'm just kind of keeping it a little simple so that we don't have a lot. But you can do it. And again, we'll take constant. I'm going to take not a constant. It's not a constant, though it should be. And I kind of am not sure how to do the constants in Python, but you can, I'm saying that's the value is 5. So the total number of guesses that will be given is 5. Why don't I use the magic number 5 in my code? Because what does the 7 represent? Like, how silly, like you don't know what it represents. So it's always a good idea to use variables for it. And the guess number to start with is, if I have time, I'll see. I forget how to do constants in Python. And I'm not going to use for. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say while. And did you find it yet? No, I haven't found it yet. So notice how I have declared 3 variables. Total number of guesses is 5. The guess number is 1. First guess number is 1. Flag is false, right? I'm going to write it in a bigger form, though I've told you that it's easier to say not false, but I'm going to say while the flag is false and the number of the guess number is less than or equal to number of guesses. Keep on doing this. So take a guess between this and this. Again, always see that you give user a complete message. No, I was right. Look at my while condition. I'm saying, is the flag false? You can write the short form, not flag. Is the flag false? That means you haven't guessed it yet. And is your guess number less than or equal to 5? Because you're only given 5 chances. I don't want to use a break. I don't want to break when I find it. It will automatically come out because I'll make my flag as true. I take the guess from the user. I take the guess from the user. And, oh, you know what? Why should I even do a print? I'll take this without the last brackets, and I'll put it inside the input function. Why print it? You know what I mean? Let it come with the So take a guess between this and this. Now, what do? I call the check guess. Call your method. Call the method. Check the guess. You'll say, why can't we just write those lines here? Because we are trying to learn to make our programs clearer and modular. This is called modular programs. You're not writing everything in one go top to bottom. You're trying to put jobs into different boxes to make life easy for yourself. Everybody is independent. In a group, people can do a job. Plus, you can take it and use it in another program. You just have to import your code, and now you can use check guess in another program, right? Okay, so call check guess with what? Pass the guess to it and pass the secret number to it. Now, don't worry, they're called the same. But really what happens is this. The guess that the user has made is copied into the guess variable, local guess variable. The secret number that the computer has done is copied into there. This is called call by value. Please understand, this is called call by value. Just so that you know what is call by value. Call by value simply means that values that are coming in, the arguments passed, are copied into the parameters variables. That's what it means. It's like making a photostat copy. Making a photocopy. You'll say, how does that matter? When time comes, I'll talk about call by reference. Reference means sharing something. So sharing means I make a change, the caller makes a change, called can see. The called makes a change, the caller can see, right? This is called call by value. Arguments that are passed are copied. So please don't get confused as to, oh, they were called guess and secret number here, therefore Anju passed a guess and Anju passed a secret number. Nothing doing at all. Just out of the blue here also, I didn't think of anything else. I called them guess number. Oh, I called it guess number, sorry. Okay, here. I called it guess number. I passed the guess number. No, that's not it. It is called guess. My mistake, sorry. It is called guess. The guess number is how many did you make? The user passed the guess and the secret number. These names have no connection with the names that you put in the function. Somebody else has written the function. I don't even know. All that the guy told me was, give me two inputs. Tell me the guess, tell me the secret number in that order. Don't mix it up. So give me the guess as the first argument, give me the number as the second argument. And I've done it. I've done my job, right? Since check guess is returning a value, we will save it somewhere. Save it wherever you like. I'll just save it in result. Remember, it is returning a 0 or a 1. Now, if this result is a 1, if your result is a 1, means what? Oh, you won the game. So what should you do? Make your flag as true. Don't break. See, I've avoided the use of break. I could have said if result is equal to 1, break, but I didn't. I used a Boolean variable in my condition and I made it true. It will come out of the loop. It's out of the loop. So break statements can be avoided and should be avoided. So when I tell you something, I'm going to see that you do it. Now, so if you're, now the only thing I have to do is double check if my indentation is okay. If your guess was right, now all you have to do is if your flag is true. If the flag is true, that means you got it. Again, you can simply say if flag. Then you can say something like you won or whatever instead of good job or whatever. You won, you can give a smiley face if you like. You can say you guessed my number in, you guessed the number in, not my and yours are not good words. You guessed the number in, and you can show how many guesses did the person take. Make sense? Else the person lost. Else the person lost. So you can say you lost. And you can tell the user what your number was. So you can again make a sad face. The number I was thinking of, or the secret number was, or I was thinking is okay because you're talking to the computer, and show the secret number. And I have missed something somewhere. Am I missing a bracket? No, I don't think so. And save this here. So keep in mind, this while starts here. All this, everything in the while has to be in the same position. So kind of come down, down, down. They're all in the same. Oh, this while is not in the same position. Okay, so this while has to go one forward. Then everything inside this while is in the same position, but then this if has to be in the same position, which it is not. So it's one away. There. So indentation is important, right? So notice everything in the while starts from the same column. It should show me column number somewhere. Notice here on the right hand side it says column 4. Okay, so that's column 4. That's column 4. This should be column 4, 4, 4. While in the 4, the rest all look okay to me, so I'm not testing. This in the 4 and this in the 4. This can be anything. It's in the 6. So this is in the 6. And now everything inside while. 7, 7, 7. And then, of course, this somewhere inside. So if you want to kind of keep it at 7, doesn't matter. But I'm just trying to be there. But I've forgotten one thing. What have I forgotten? I have to take my inputs again. Don't forget that. Okay, so where am I taking my inputs? Oops. Oh, something is not right. Okay, so I come out of it. I say flag true, you won, game over. I have to take my input again. So take new inputs because you want to play again. Don't forget that. Otherwise, it will keep working with the same lower limit and upper limit. And again here, if you want to say game over or something, we can do a print statement here. The whole purpose was to kind of make it everything. The game is over. I know the class time is also over, but the game is also over. Hopefully it will run. If not, then I'll look at it, but most probably it will run. Don't forget to take your inputs again. And this is where it is important. When you go and take your inputs again, you still have the lower limit and the upper limit of the old game, and they were valid. So if you don't reset them to -1 and 0 or whatever I did, any values so that the condition becomes false, it won't run again. Let's save it and see if I've made any mistakes. I could have, it's just my first go. Okay, so this is a guessing game. Please enter a whole number for the lower limit. I don't see a colon, so that's an untidy one. I'll say a 0 and a 0. Okay, so name upper limit spelling is wrong. Okay, so we have a few mistakes. It will come. It's not a big deal. Upper limit spelling is wrong somewhere. Here, there. Please enter a whole number for the limit. Colon and a space. Colon and a space. Control S, F5. These are silly errors. Don't worry about them. I'll give it to you. So sometimes I can't even see. Okay, so 0 and 0 should stop. There, program ends. So 0, 0 is working. One job done. 0, 0 is working, right? So you kind of test it for your conditions. What is the second thing you want to do now? Wrong conditions. Okay, so let's give the lower limit as 5 and the upper limit as 1. It should ask again. It asks again. Notice it asks again. Okay, my lower limit as -5 and my upper limit as 5. It's okay. That should work. It says, okay, I have thought of a number between -5 and 5. Take a guess. Oh, again, I don't know what the guess is, but let's do a 4. Okay, so there is a line, must be a string, not an int. Okay, so when I did the print statement, so that's how you get it, right? So where it says, take a guess, take inputs, take a guess. Where is you? Take a guess. Okay, I forgot to put a plus here. And a colon and a blank was looking untidy. That's one thing. And it said you forgot to convert it into a What did I forget? Somewhere it said it's not converted. Take a guess between lower limit and upper limit. That's right. Oh, so somewhere in check then. Oh, there it is, print. Your guess, convert it into string. See, when I use a plus, I have to convert it into a string. When I use a comma, I don't have to. Okay, so that was the other error. You didn't convert it into a string. Slow and steady, but you will get it. And these are just silly errors, not a big deal. Okay, so lower limit is 1. Oh, and the upper limit is 10. Okay, take a guess between 1 and 10. 5. It says it is high. So 3 is high. 2 is high. So I'm only remained with 1 and 4. Okay, so I have an error. Name guesses taken is not defined. Guesses taken. You guessed in these many guesses. Guesses taken is not defined. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back. Guesses taken. Guesses taken. Guesses taken. You guessed the number in guesses taken. Oh, what was mine called? Guess number. And there was something else that was not very clean. And I said, oh, this is what I want to. I want to show what the computer guessed so that I can at least win the game or lose the game. So I'm going to print the secret number for myself. I'm going to print the secret number for myself. Otherwise, I'll never ever win, I think. Maybe I will. Who knows? Okay, there it is. So I've guessed the secret number. I've printed it so that you can see what the secret number is. Let's try it once more. These are just syntax errors. You don't have to keep up with me necessarily. Okay, lower limit is 1, upper limit is 10. Okay, so the secret number is 3. Let me give it at the first go. 3. I should win. Oops, game is over. You won. Done. Now it is asking for the next input. I can play again, right? So let's go -5 to 5. The secret number is 5. Let me not try to win. Okay. So let me give a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. So I've been given 5 chances. Oh, so 1 chance. I'm off by 1 error. And a 5. So it's taking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guesses instead of 5, where I said 5. So my relational operator is wrong somewhere. I just have to change it. Okay. So the opposite. Lower limit is 0 and my upper limit is -5. It should say, something is wrong. So I'm okay there, right? And a 0 and a 0 should stop. So it's working, but there is off by 1 error. Instead of giving me 5 chances, it is giving me 6 chances, which means it's very simple, which means my loop here, there's something wrong here. Aha, what is wrong? Do you know? I never incremented my guess number also. So take a guess. That's the result. If the result is true, flag is true. I forgot to do this. So God knows what it was doing. You get your errors when you go ahead and do it. So increment the guess number up by 1. I don't know how many of you have seen this before, but this is a shorthand of saying increment guess number up by 1. I forgot this. I hope there is nobody waiting outside. I know you have to go and I have to go too, but give me 1 minute and we are done. There. So number of guesses is 5. Guess number 1, while it is less than or equal to number of guesses, keep on doing. If the result is 1, get out, else increment it up by 1. Otherwise it won't stop. It should have gone into an infinite loop, but it didn't. Why is that? I don't know. Okay, so last try. 1 to 10. 4. So I'm going to give 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, now it's working. I've only given 5 guesses. So when you write your code, though I had written it before, but I hadn't memorized it. Nobody memorizes code. You write your code, you run your program. Check for conditions, 0, 0, 0, -1. Check everything that you have checked. If you get errors, rectify them. And now it works. Right? So everybody can make mistakes. because you're writing it for the first time. I'm just writing it in front of you, like I'm just coding it. So don't be afraid of errors or problems. Try to see where you went wrong. And the best way is to put print statements. Then you will know, oh, this loop is not working, or something is wrong is this statement. So I printed my secret number so that I could win or I could lose. That was the whole reason. Of course, you won't show the secret number to the user, right? Okay, so this is going on Blackboard. This program is now working. The only thing that I don't like about it is that I have used global variables in input. I will again look into it and see if I can make it better. Okay, so under week 6, no, we are in week 5. I'm going to put your guessing game. Okay, so I'm going to override this one. And week 5, what is it, Wednesday today? Yep, it is. And it is. Yep, go, ask.
Okay, yes, this question that I follow your steps and I've been putting the command. This question that they keep showing the result that you just
Not equal, not 2 signs, 1 sign, assignment of.
I know, but even I changed to 1 sign, but it still said invalid as the missing text.
Where?
So
Here, okay,
yes,
so here. Okay, give me something, let me think. You are missing a bracket here.
The bracket?
This first bracket is for string.
Yes.
The second bracket is for input.
Yes.
But where is the bracket for int? Closing bracket is missing.
Okay.
Make sense?
Wait.
Put a bracket. Yes. My office hours are right now from 11 to 12 in my office.
Okay.
A155.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Got it?
Yes. And oh.
So everything that I've done today, I've put it on Blackboard. Okay, guys? Give it a read. Criticize it if you can.